Happy Friday, everybody. Welcome back to Ribbon Candy Hooking. This is a special night indeed, isn't it? I want you to welcome with me a special guest tonight. We've only done this a couple of times, so be sure to let us know if there's any issues with feedback or sound or anything like that. But tonight we have the honor of having on our show Robin Whitford of Hooking Outside the Lines. I know you know her. Here she is. Please let us know in the comments that you can see us both and that the screen is good, the volume's good. Robin, do you want to say hello?
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here. I hope people can hear us and see us and we can just chat.
I think that's exactly what's going to happen. I'm just going to scroll to the bottom because normally people will tell us right away, like, uh-oh. But I think
Mhm.
we should be good. There's no reason. This is the big crowd tonight. Hello, everybody. I'm going to scroll through the comments while we're chatting because we want to talk to
Yeah.
Robin tonight. That's what the whole night is about. I'll just do a quick rundown and say, Melissa, great to see you. Catherine, great to see you. I'll be reading your comments as we go so I can relay them to Robin. If you
Yeah.
have special questions for her, I think I'm the only one who sees the screen. So you put your questions in, and I will ask Robin when we have a break, a pause in our conversation, and we can do it that way. Let's just see. Oh, yep. Olivia says hello in Ireland. Everybody can see us. Yep. Robin says good.
Awesome.
My mom. Everybody's on. Everything looks good. Everybody, you've got a
Awesome.
lot of hellos, Robin. I'm just seeing it scrolling. Hello, hello. Everybody's very
Oh,
happy to
that's so
see
sweet.
you and to hear you.
Oh,
Looks great. All right. Happy Friday night to everybody. Robin, I'm getting some reports like Ryan in North Texas is having gin cocktails and Owen saying congratulations on Magpie. Thank you so much. They should have all been
yes.
shipped by now. We'll see. Hopefully everybody finds theirs this week. Lisa, happy Friday night. Cheers, my dears, to everyone. I want to stay with the program tonight because for me, the program is about Robin tonight. And I'm drinking water because I don't dare
Yeah.
start drinking like what Ryan's drinking and completely lose the thread of the conversation. Mm.
Yeah, I got my ginger ale. People that hook with me in the evenings always know ginger ale is my drink of choice for hooking activities.
Oh,
So
how
I'm
fun. And
full
you,
blast.
you, you drink it out of the mason jar? Is that like a signature thing?
Well, most of my glasses are ginger and it just fits. It's a full can. It's just perfect.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's
Oh, that's fun. Oh, I like that. I might take that tip. I did not know. That's a lot tidier than drinking out of a dirty old can, isn't it? All right, but I don't know if you can tell. Buttons is in the show too. He's right
Oh,
here,
hello buttons.
trying desperately to be part of the action. All right, I'm just scrolling down. I just want to say hi to everybody. Great to see you. You all made it to Friday. Good job, right? You are now on the threshold of the weekend, and I'm sure it's filled with all good things. Although I think we're getting some nasty weather. Have you heard that,
Yeah.
Robin?
Well, it's been crazy weather here, crazy cold for, end of March.
Yeah, it is. It's a wacky year. Now, tell us what you're in Canada.
Yeah.
Tell us what part.
Yeah. Um, well, I'm in Ontario, so the
Mhm.
province of Ontario.
Mhm.
I'm very close to our national capital, which is Ottawa.
Mhm.
I'm about half an hour drive into the city. So I'm outside the city, down a dirt road. I only have about 10 houses on my street. So I'm kind of out there, but not far from the city. So um, I absolutely, absolutely love it here.
That sounds like a great location. Now, are there a lot of hookers around you? Hookers and punchers?
Well, I didn't know anything about hooking or punching or any of that, really. I was
Hmm.
very much in the knitting world and sewing and machine embroidery and all of that kind of stuff all my life. And then it was not that many years ago, I was on Instagram and I saw what I didn't know what it was. I was like, what is this thing? And I was into painting at the time. So I mostly was looking at artists on Instagram. I think it was about 2017. And the woman was described it as rug hooking, and I had
Hmm.
no idea. And it turned out to be Karen Miller, who lived not far from me at all. I used to live closer to her,
Oh, yeah.
and she ended up teaching a class. So that's how I started. And then I learned about this whole community of rug hookers. So do they live near me? Not out on this road per se, but there are quite a few in Ottawa. Like I'm quite lucky. There's a whole wonderful guild in Ottawa and very active group. So
Oh,
Yeah.
that's interesting because there's such a long tradition of hooking in Canada. I wondered if you were in one of those enclaves where historically everybody hooks and everybody's mom hooked. No.
No, not at all, and I mean, I grew up with really crafty mom, and just where where I grew up was in Quebec, right on the Vermont border, so on the Quebec side,
Oh, yeah.
um, but it was unheard of, like, it was not we my mom was a weaver, a quilter, spinner, all of that kind of stuff, but I had never heard of rug cooking, and I think if I'd had to guess what it was, I probably would have said, "Oh, I think it's somebody who does those very primitive rugs," like, I
Yeah.
could have imagined something,
Hmm.
but I did not know anybody doing it. And I don't think she did either. Like, it wasn't something that was happening there.
That's so
So, yeah.
interesting. It's almost like when somebody says something like oh you never see any yellow cars anymore, and then suddenly you do, right? As soon as
Yes.
you become aware of something, suddenly you do notice and you see and you go, oh, maybe that's a hooked piece too.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah,
Interesting.
now I do know because my dad still lives where I grew up, and I just joined a Facebook group of hookers in that little area.
Oh
So there
my
are a handful of
God.
them happening now, but, when I was growing up and lived there, it was not something that was talked about anyway.
Oh my gosh, that is so
Um,
funny. You
yeah.
just you found it organically, right?
It
Like a
was
homing
meant to
pigeon.
be, like yeah, yeah,
I
I
have
am
I have
so grateful.
Yeah, right? And we are too. The whole community is because we're going to talk about everything that you do, but you're such a visible person. You're such a let's do that in a second. I have to make an abrupt pause to say you are getting
Okay.
so many compliments on those overalls.
Oh, these are my birthday overalls.
That brings us to our next thing. Your birthday is tomorrow, right?
It is.
Happy early birthday.
Thank you.
Now,
Thank you.
did you do last night the spa event?
Yes.
So you do cool events, right? So let's talk about the spa event and how that went and what it was
Yes.
for and all of that. But
Yes.
let's tell people like how they can. We should start with how you can find Robin if you're just meeting Robin for the first time, because you do lots of teaching, you do events and workshops and stuff like the spa night last night. That's
Yeah.
really cool and different. So let us know where
Yeah.
we can find it and then tell us about last night.
Okay. So, you can find me under Hooking Outside the Lines. That's sort of my business name, and my Facebook, Instagram, and website is all Hooking Outside the Lines. Um, and yeah, so you can please sign up for my newsletter. I don't send them often, but when I have new stuff coming, I will let people know, and that's the best way to stay in touch. Um, and yeah, I love to do different things. So because I came to rug cooking kind of late, like it was 2016, 2017 when I first heard about it, first took my class, and then I was so addicted. Like I can't even describe. I mean, I feel like many people watching are like, I know what you mean. You don't have to describe it. Um, but for me, because I wasn't working at that moment, um, I was recuperating from and a whole other issue, but I had a lot of time on my hands. So I literally just spent hours and hours every day as soon as I discovered it. And then as soon as I felt well enough, I was like, where do I go? Like, where can I learn more from more people? I just took every class I could take. I just wanted to absorb, like, just so that's been kind of my mission is absorbing. And then as I realized the beginning of pandemic, I had started teaching in a store because nobody else wanted to. Like there people were hooking in the town, but nobody was teaching. And I was like, people need to know about this. Like we can't keep this a secret. So, um, that is literally how I decided to teach was I felt like this need to like share this magic thing that I'd found with other people that needed the magic. So that's how I started teaching. And then COVID hit, and I was like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? Like, I just couldn't fathom not connecting with people
Mhm,
that were equally passionate about hooking.
mhm.
um, so I went online and I, again, took as many classes as I could take. And I started teaching more um, anywhere, to anybody that was curious. And I just feel like I'm happy to share whatever I learn. I'm happy to share and pass on. Um, so yeah, so I that's how it all started. And I do kind of different events because I always do things, and it's purely selfish. It's because I want to do things that I would want to attend.
Ulterior
So
motives.
it's all ulterior motives. So the spa night became about because I have a horse And he's such a lucky guy. He got a massage a few weeks ago. He only gets like twice a year. It's a special thing. And I posted pictures on Facebook of him getting a massage. And so many of my hooker friends were like, I need a massage. And I was like, so do I. But I don't have time for, anyway, I could make time, but I don't. And I know a wonderful woman who teaches and she's a yoga teacher. She's a reflexology practitioner and does all kinds of amazing things. And I knew she could teach us
Yeah.
self massage. Like, how can we take care of our hands and our sore shoulders and, just be really take care of our tools? And
Yeah.
so I was like, I'm going to host a spa night.
That sounds brilliant.
Yeah. Yeah. It was fun. It was a lot of fun.
What? Oh,
Um,
that is a lot of fun. And it was like it was associated with Doctors Without
Borders,
Borders.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, because it was my birthday for the last
Mhm.
few years, I guess 3 or 4 years, since the beginning of COVID, I think I've hosted something for my birthday. I am not a party person, like, I don't wanna go out and do what maybe is a traditional birthday party.
Mm.
But again, any excuse to gather with hookers and talk about textile arts, I'm there. And so in for my birthday, I thought I'm going to do this. So it was tickets for $10. All the money went to Doctors Without Borders. Last year, I think it was the Red Cross. I just picked different ones. Um, and we do different events. So it was great. And I learned so much. Like I'm holding my hands because today my hands just feel so good because
Yeah.
again, she just showed us simple movements, but it was like, oh yeah, I need to do this.
It was it mostly geared to like, for a rug hooker, the way that your hands and your wrists, the way that you might sit and all that.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The friend that, hosted or I hosted, she taught it. Um, she is not a rug hooker, but she knows all about it because she's a friend of mine, and she sees what I do and how I sit, and, and I do attend her yoga classes, so she knows sort of my aches and pains and stuff. So it was, very specific to our hands, arms, shoulders, neck, and just how we can, take care of ourselves so that we can feel good and keep feeling good and pain-free. Um,
That
so
sounds
yeah, that
amazing.
was
Because when you started that conversation with, she's going to teach us how to massage ourselves, I thought, where's this conversation going? What kind of party is this? No,
I know.
this makes perfect sense for the rug hooker. I've been having this thing for days. I'm not going to start, but like your back hurts, right? You
Yeah.
lean over in a certain way. You're working on the
Mhm.
same piece for a while. You start to get the weirdest, those hot, searing pains. It really it's weird how such a gentle craft can take such a toll on your body.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and I know I don't do everything I can, excuse me, um, preventatively, like, I don't get up every 20 minutes and walk around and
Yeah,
stretch and all that, so it was just such a good reminder, and it
yeah.
just felt so good, like, I felt like $1,000,000 afterwards. I was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna make a point to do this more often," so,
I think
again,
that's
I learned something and had a good time, so
yeah. And other people had a good time too,
yeah.
right? I mean, it's such a perfect way to celebrate your birthday. You've got a lot of happy birthdays coming in.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, and more overall talk.
Oh,
It just might go on all night. They are so good, I have to say.
yes.
You have some questions. Where did you get them?
Okay, I'm happy to talk about my overalls, but I have to tell people because I feel like it's something not talked about enough, and
Mhm.
it might be a little off of a rug cooking thing, but, and I think you might understand, but
Mhm.
I have discovered in my 40s that I have sensory issues, like,
Mhm.
certain things bother me,
Mhm.
and when I talked about being off of work, I was off work for, major depression and social anxiety, like, I had generalized anxiety disorder, I was not leaving my house, it was it was just not a good time,
Yeah.
and I just thought, "Oh, it's because of work. Oh, it's because of this." And with therapy, lots I'm very grateful, I had wonderful therapist, but there were certain things that really bother me, and one of them is my clothes. Like, if I am not comfortable, I have a hard time focusing on anything else,
Yeah.
and so and overalls was something that was not acceptable attire in my previous work.
Mhm.
And even, growing up, adults are not supposed to wear overalls and all this kind of silly stuff. And I have changed that for myself. So I very proudly wear my overalls because they have no waistband. They are comfortable. These ones have stretch in them, which
Mhm.
is amazing. Um, so I'm just really, I prioritize my comfort over everything else. Like beauty and fashion are really secondary and, it depends what you consider beautiful. So these are beautiful to me. They are from, It's called Run and Fly.
Run and
It
fly.
Run and Fly.
Oh,
These are the first pair I've ordered from this company, but I will be getting more. It is a UK, out of the United Kingdom.
okay.
They are not inexpensive, but they are fairly made. People are paid properly. Organic, non-toxic
Yeah.
dyes used, all of that kind of stuff that I'm not describing very well. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah,
Oh,
I
I
will
think they're
be buying
gorgeous.
more.
I love what you said right then. You just touched on a bunch of subjects that I think are important. We always, like on this show, we always talk about personal stuff, and I talk about depression a lot and hormones and all of the things that I've tried, having crazy times. But what you said about like being physically comfortable, that is such a real thing.
Yeah,
And I'm immediately made me think of like the show Monk, right? There's a reason why he wore the same clothes every day because it simplified life and it removed one layer of aggravation and thought and
yeah,
stress and energy.
yeah,
But I know my autistic son also is like it. Like I got him a new pillow and it had a tag on it, and it was like,
yeah,
forget it. Like he woke me up 3 times in the middle of the night, and then I'm stumbling around in the dark looking for scissors to cut the tag. Because even when I flipped it off over, he still knew that the tag was there. It's
yeah.
comfort is a real thing, and
It
I
is.
completely agree with you.
Mhm.
It seems like a small thing, but when you think about like hooking for me is so great, and I think you touched on this too, because you're sitting there and you're doing something repetitive and your mind works through stuff. But when you think about all the layers of your life, right, that are present and weighing on you all the time, right, a
Mhm.
bunch that most of them that you don't even acknowledge because it's like too much. But then
Yeah,
you have a bunch of layers that you do have to acknowledge, like what am I supposed to pay this week? Is this tag bothering me? Am I about to run out
yeah,
of something? How long do I have before I've got to spring out of my chair and into the car? It's layers and layers of
yeah.
stuff. And it's like the more stuff you can remove by like wearing
Exactly.
overalls, that's one whole thing
I
struck off
know.
the list right there.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
totally get that.
Yeah. I feel like, and I don't know, I hope for this anyway, but I feel like the more I wear them,
Hmm.
it gives permission to other people to wear
Hmm.
what's comfortable too. So I sort of feel like I celebrate, like that's why I tell the story about why I wear them. It's not just because I think they're really pretty,
Yeah.
but for me, it's a comfort thing. And so I want other people to be comfortable
Yeah. Well, it does
and do
give
what they need
other,
to do.
whether we admit it or not, we don't want to admit it, but like you're saying, it wasn't appropriate to wear overalls in your last job situation. And that is the case with a lot of stuff.
Mhm.
It still is a world where the way that you look
Yeah.
signals a lot of information to people who don't know you about who you are. The way you present yourself, it's like, here I
Yeah.
am. You do your best. Like, here I am wearing a cat sweater that I got off Facebook Marketplace. It looks awful, but it's comfortable. And I think it's telling people, I like cute cats,
Yeah.
right? But you put yourself out there and you want,
Yeah.
for younger people, sometimes it's like a concert t-shirt or something. You wear something because you want other people who might like the same things to see you
Mhm.
and connect somehow, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, we all do that. And I think it is important to wear comfortable clothes. And you look so nice. Like you're in
Thank
overalls, but
you.
you look so nice. I mean, you don't look like you're slumming it. This is a
No,
really
I don't feel
pretty
like I am
outfit.
either, but
No, you look fantastic. It gives permission to other people to rethink it and to just get more comfortable.
yeah.
Robin,
Yeah.
you have like such an easygoing personality. I just love that about you.
Mhm.
In my mind, and we're just getting to know each other, but in my mind, you're one of the people in the business who's you share so much. And like
Mhm.
you said at the beginning, you're not like you learned about hooking and instead of going, oh, I better sit on these secrets, right, because it'll give me like a professional advantage, I'll have the edge if I don't tell anybody anything. You're not one of those people, and there's a
Mhm.
lot of people out there who are those people. And that, at least for me coming into the business also, like in my late 40s at that point, um, you know I, like you, every time I discovered something, I shared it and went, oh my
Yeah.
god, guess what I figured out about transferring. And everyone else is like, been transferring like that for years. It's
Yeah.
like, thanks for telling me, like thanks for letting me know. But there's a lot of secret keeping within this
Yep.
business, probably within every business. But it does not help further the craft when people are sitting
No.
on insider info or like tips and tricks that could help, whether a seasoned hooker or somebody coming brand new, a beginner.
Mhm.
It does not help anybody get better and succeed, right? There's like
Mhm.
the idea of setting people up for success with a new craft. If people come to an expensive craft like this and they're not going to have success out of the gate,
Mhm.
they'll probably go do something else.
Yeah.
And it's super important. I completely agree with your philosophy. It's super important to share because without God knows it's a small enough craft already in terms of
Yeah.
numbers.
Yeah, and
So,
I don't think I'm giving away like, I always sort of have this little voice in the back of my head that somebody's gonna be like, "Oh, well, I don't want Robin in my class. She's gonna tell everybody everything." But I don't feel like anything I share is like, I'm not sharing trade secrets. Like, I'm just sharing stuff I've learned through experimentation, and I feel and I mean, someday I might be proven wrong,
yeah,
um, but everything we're doing has been done. Like, we're not
yeah.
we're using different materials, different colors, different shapes and styles and trends, but really everything has been done. We are just playing with it in different ways, so I just want everybody to have access to whatever information that will help them have more fun, have more success in whatever way that is to them.
Hmm.
Um, and yeah, I think there's so much to share that
Yeah, that's like the best I've ever heard that put because there really is nothing new in terms of
Mhm,
technique. So it becomes a question of if it's a level playing field and we all know the same great stuff, it then everything boils down to like your original take on something,
mhm.
and that to me, you can probably hear the dog barking, right?
That's okay.
I'm gonna call my son to open the door. I don't want to spring out. I forgot he was inside, and he was sitting right here. But yeah, if it even if it is a level playing field, I feel that each person gets to shine their light because they
Yes.
do something unique and different.
Yeah.
And why not give every person a chance, you know, to be level and even?
Yeah.
Because yeah,
Yeah, and I
nothing
know
new
I
under the
won't be
sun.
everybody's cup of tea. Like, everybody, all teachers teach differently, which is a wonderful thing too,
Yeah,
because how I explain it might not be understood by one person, and how somebody else explains it, they'll be like, "Oh, I get it better from her." So that is fine. There's
that's the
enough of
story.
us.
Yeah, that's the story of life, isn't it? It's the
Yeah.
same with like we've both struggled with depression apparently. I'm finding that out about you. Don't you find that like once in a while, like you're saying, "Oh, I had a great therapist. It was someone who helped a lot." Sometimes I feel like that about the therapist or the priest or whoever. Sometimes somebody says something that is exactly right for that moment, and it might be that somebody said it yesterday, but I didn't hear it yesterday.
Yes.
And it's the same thing with crafts.
Yes.
Somebody can say like this one little thing to you that could change like the look of your work or the way that you're working, your success or your energy or inspiration. And you might not hear it today, but you might hear it next month. So if somebody
Yeah.
repeats it, that's great.
Yeah.
You get multiple
Absolutely.
chances to like collect all that great info.
Yeah. Well, and I know I need to hear things multiple times
That
to
too.
really absorb them too, like, just to really integrate them into my learning. It takes it takes a few rounds.
Yeah, I mean, there is an average. I know Kirsten, I don't know if Kirsten's on. I know Kirsten tells me this all the time that there is like an average number that like the average person has to hear something before it's really
Yeah.
ingrained, right? And
Yeah.
you don't have to like struggle to remember.
Yeah.
You are excellent at connecting people. Um, I'm just going to catch up for a second
Yeah.
with the threads. Oh, Pam said, as an older person, Pam is in her 70s. I strive to emulate Iris Opfe. Wear the jewelry, wear the bright colors. Fair, I
Yes.
get that. Very nice. Barbara
Yes.
logged on. Lots of friends logging on. Sharon Waddell. Lots of friends logging on from Canada. I think friends who know you too. Ryan saying he wears overalls all the time. But Ryan, you're from Texas, right? So that kind of is the uniform. Is that the uniform?
Yeah, it might be a little different, I don't know.
They might be different over. I don't think they're as pretty as Robin's, right? I think we all just wrote down the name of that brand. There's going to be like a rush on that shop tonight.
Yeah.
Um, and Ryan said, "I love this community because we are not gatekeepers. We are genuinely
Mhm.
enjoying sharing the craft and tips and tricks." Absolutely, Olivia
Yeah.
agreed with that. Yeah, Robin, you do a lot of videos too. You do your interviews, right? And I want to hear about that. But you also do other videos that teach people how to do different aspects, of finishing, making. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so, well, I'll talk about the Rugspirations, which is
Yes.
my interviews, which is we got to chat one day.
Hmm.
So you'll find a link to that on my Hooking Outside the Lines website as well. Um, and I started that because I went to, I guess it was the first rug school after sort of the worst of COVID. So it was, when we could gather again.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I discovered that I really liked at the rug school that I had missed, and I didn't know this until I was at rug school, was those sort of casual conversations at lunchtime or in between where you're kind of like, "Oh, how did you start hooking?" or "Who taught you?" or "What kind of hook do you use?" or, those really sort of benign questions, and yet that's how, as a new rug hooker too, who hadn't necessarily seen a lot, I learn that way. Like, I learn and I love stories. I love hearing people's sort of stories, how they started. So that is Rugspirations. It's just like 6 questions I ask people, and some are sort of professionals like yourself, and other people are like my good friend that I taught, to hook during COVID, on Zoom, even though she lived around the block. Um, and I interviewed her too because we all have a story. Like, it's all valuable, and somebody who's brand new gets a different perspective too, and it's refreshing, I think, for those of us who've hooked for, not that I've hooked for long, but for, um, different way and different parts of the world.
Yeah.
Very regional. Hooking is very regional in terms of, style preferences, materials, all of that. Um, so yeah, so that's Rugspirations. And then I discovered, which kind of surprised me again, when I found this passion for rug hooking, I was like, I want to talk to people on Facebook, which, like, I was a latecomer to Facebook. My mother was on Facebook way before I was. I was like, I am not doing that. And then all of a sudden I was like, I want to talk to people. So I just get on lives often. Well, I go through phases up and down, and I'll just be like, I had this thought or this thing keeps rolling around in my brain, and I share it with people. And I love hearing, like, either it resonates with people or what, they think about it. So a lot of my Facebook stuff is these, I call them Robin's ramblings sometimes because I just feel like I ramble. But anyway, people are willing to listen. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, Olivia
Um,
saying she loves watching your interviews. They're very interesting.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Um, and then I teach online. So I do a lot. I still teach a lot online, um, because again, COVID kept us all home. I was like, I cannot have this. What am I going to do? And I started the Creativity Club,
Mhm.
um, which again, I didn't know how I could teach online. And this is one of the things that has been such an instrumental part of my life, I would say, since discovering rug hooking, is that things that I thought I couldn't do or I didn't know how I would do, I now figure out a way to do them.
Yeah. It sounds like that. Yeah.
So again, I was like, I know I have a need to be social now. I didn't in the past, but I knew I needed it. And so, how am I going to connect with these people? And again, my friend was like, you could do a club, you could meet weekly. And I was like, oh, I can't do that. And she says, well, try it. And now I'm willing to try it. Like,
Yeah.
I would not have been 10 years ago. But now I'm just like, okay, we'll see what happens. Like, I don't know. We'll see. And now we have about 50 or so members. We
That's a lot.
meet, weekly, and some people can't make it because of work and life and all that. And so I record everything. We share all our videos. We do workshops. We have guest teachers. We do all kinds of crazy, wonderful exchanges, and ugh, they're so inspiring. Every time I'm just like, it's magical.
It sounds incredible.
Yeah.
You have such a similar story. I relate so well to
Mhm.
you. Do you ever have that feeling of like you're doing something with work, like you're getting an interview ready or you're working a project in that feeling of like, how did I get here? Like
Yes.
it's all a blur. There's like you have no recollection. Like you're suddenly sitting doing something quite important and meaningful, and there's other people like waiting, to see, and it's like I have no recollection of how this happened at all. You just turned up there. You know what? Do you ever have
Yeah.
that weird
Well,
surreal?
my moment is more about like I can remember it, but at the same time, I'm like, how? Like, I don't know how I went because I'll have this moment of remembering, well, even like this, I shared this story last night at spa night that when I met Jackie, the yoga instructor that
Mm.
was, our special guest, um, I was at a point of not wanting to leave my house, like,
Mhm.
just really being scared and thinking, "Okay, I knew I wanted to go to yoga, I had gone in my past, and I was like, 'How do I get there?' And I had this whole like, I had to orchestrate, I think it was a few emails with her for her to tell me, like, "Okay, where do I park?
Yeah.
I needed to negotiate that. I needed to know which door do I go in?
Yeah.
What can I expect? What time exactly should I be arriving that is not too early but not too late?
Mm-hmm.
Um, is there a bathroom? Like
Yeah.
I needed to orchestrate everything so that I could be at least somewhat comfortable, not comfortable, but just comfortable enough to get my butt out the door
Yeah.
to attend the class.
Yeah.
And that was probably 10 years ago. So how did I go from that person
Yeah.
to this person? Like, I'm going to Guatemala in a few weeks.
Yeah, that's right. I forgot you were going to
I
do that. I want to talk about that too. I see what you mean because that whole the way that you just described that's very familiar. I get that. I get that a little bit too with like buses and stuff in movie theaters.
Yes.
Like, got to sit on the aisle, got to be near the bathroom. Just worry. But like it doesn't really fit, and I can see why
Mhm.
sometimes this can be problematic. That part of you doesn't really fit with the other part of you that's super confident and
Mhm.
figures stuff out, right? When
Yeah.
you figure things out the way you do and you start a business and you're just starting, but it's almost like collecting stars with a net, right? Over here in conversations and collecting bits of
Yep.
information and you figure it out, that
Mhm.
takes so much um, like intellectual capacity and togetherness, like just being mentally together and smart and capable. And that doesn't fit with that other thing of like
No.
worries, right? That's
Yep.
the problem with life. That's all of those different
Yes.
layers, isn't it? Stacked up.
Yes.
That we
Yes.
all have different sides that don't really fit together. And it
Mhm.
is it is funny because what you just described, I know a lot of rug hookers who are the same, have the
Yeah.
same things.
Yep.
It's I
Yeah,
think
that is one thing.
curious.
Soon as I started teaching, and even at that, like I told the yarn store, it was very small, and I was like 6 people maximum,
Mm-hmm.
maximum of
Mm-hmm.
2 hours. Like I had all these requirements to make sure that I could manage it. Um, and yet afterwards, I was like, "Okay, bring on more." And I was like,
Mm-hmm.
"Who is this?"
Yeah,
Like it's like magic. I don't understand
it's
it. I
like
don't know
destiny.
how.
Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
destiny. It's like when you
Yep.
find your thing, it is magic, right?
Yep.
You definitely found your thing. You found the right
Mhm.
area. You got nestled in. You found your people. You found what you
Mhm.
loved. You found a great, you did lots of other crafts and you found a
Mhm.
great mode of creativity. And then you immediately started working in the field,
Mhm.
right? So that shows that you were really meant to be here. And you immediately started connecting with other people and finding groups and joining and learning and logging online. And it's hard.
Mhm.
COVID time was hard. It was
Yeah.
hard to find people. It was hard to figure stuff out. Everything was crazy and scary and new.
Yep.
But you
Yep.
figured it out really well. You are passionate about so many things, right? You're super passionate about empowering other women, particularly about rug making and hooking, about community. Tell me three more things that you're very passionate about.
Oh my goodness. Well, I'm very passionate about my family.
I guess you better say
Um,
that, right?
yeah, I would
Of
have to
course.
say, well, even tonight, like both my kids are in university. Well, no, one's graduated university. I still he'd probably not appreciate me saying that. He graduated last June. Um, so yeah, I can't believe my son is like a grown up. And my daughter's in university, but she's coming home for the weekend because it's my birthday, and I'm
Oh,
just so excited. So yeah, my family is really important.
oh,
um, Yeah, so that is for sure, and that
for
is,
sure.
yeah, top of mind always, and just to add, when you were saying, like, I was able to start a business, I
Hmm.
just have to say that it was partly because I knew at that point that I could not go back into the work I was doing. I
Hmm.
was working for military, family services, and my husband was military, he's retired, with PTSD, and I was like, "I know I can't." Like, I just knew that I could not go back into social work like I was doing. So because of that, and I needed a job, like I'm turning 49 tomorrow. I need to keep working.
Hmm. Yeah.
It was like, do I find another job
Hmm.
or do I somehow make my own? And again, it was kind of that magic of like I felt that there was room for me to make a job. And I'm so, so grateful that so far I've been able
Yeah.
to make that work so that I can be home.
Yeah.
And I can have a flexible schedule, which I need for myself, which sometimes my husband needs, and
Hmm.
sometimes my, growing up children need. Um, And yeah, kind of it's that double edge because it really forced me to work really hard to make it work
Yeah. Yeah.
in a short period of time.
It's
Um,
amazing what you can do when you have to.
yeah,
It's amazing.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
You can find energy sometimes when you're in that kind of a situation, right? And you feel like your back is against the wall. And particularly at that age, 'cause I'm 52, so I'm a little bit older than you. But that moment where you realize you go back to the way it was and it wasn't
Mhm,
very good, or you have to figure something out, but you better do it right now.
mhm.
That's a scary crossroads.
Yeah,
um,
yeah.
we both were lucky we landed well, but not everybody does, right?
No,
I mean,
no.
it's like that's the heartbreaking story of life. Is some people are lucky and others are not. I don't
Mhm.
think it has anything to do with intelligence or will or how good of a person you are.
No,
I think anybody who finds their way into what they were born to do is very lucky, and
absolutely,
yeah, maybe just
absolutely.
lucky. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
tell me about like we're talking about what you do now and how you
Yes.
kind of created it, how you created the job. What did, for example, what did 10-year-old you want to do for your job versus, for example, 20-year-old you?
Oh gosh. Well, I think I've shared this too with some of my followers before,
Hmm.
but I knew all through elementary school that I wanted to be an artist. I grew up in a very small town, like, I don't think we had 4,000 people in the whole town, and it's still quite a small town. Um, but it was a very artistic town. Like, there was art galleries and there was, art classes on weekends, and I was very lucky, and my mom was very supportive, and I took painting classes and drawing classes and all kinds of stuff from a very young age. I think I was, like, 11 years old, and I took a sculpting class with a sculptor, and everybody was an adult in this class, like, and they'd come out from Montreal, like, this woman was known, I didn't know her, but and we even had, like, a nude model, and I was, like, 11 years old, and I my father picks me up, and he's like, "What the"
Unexpected.
Yeah, that he didn't know that was part of it. Um, yeah, it was very funny. Anyway, so I knew I wanted to be an artist. I didn't know what kind. I took whatever class was happening. I wanted to be an artist.
Mhm.
Um, but I also grew up in a very practical family, and, even though my mom was really creative, it was always her hobbies. It was very much,
Yeah.
you work and then you do hobbies.
Yeah.
And so when it came time to, like, applying to universities or even thinking about college, university, like, what was I going to do? I was very torn. And I also didn't feel like I was good enough as an artist. Like, I never took any of those classes and the teacher said, "Oh my gosh, you're like you're amazing at this."
Yeah.
It was always like, "Oh, it's nice to have Robin in the class because she's so enthusiastic,"
Hmm.
but not necessarily really good. Um, so I applied to 2, which again, we were in the country and the closest city is Montreal, and, I applied at McGill and Concordia, the 2 English universities there, and one was in fine arts,
Hmm.
and I thought, "I'll never get in. Like, there's no way I'll get in because you had to put a portfolio together. I was like, I had I don't even know what I put in there, but it was not a professional portfolio. Um, and then I applied at Teachers, College at McGill, and I got into both,
Whoa.
and I chose to go to the Teachers College. And the moment I did it, I regretted it. Like, I knew. And I did 1 year at McGill, and I switched out, and I went to a different program, and I ended up doing social work, um, because I was so miserable that first year. Like, I even if the course was great, it had nothing to do with that, I just was like,
Yeah.
"This isn't what I'm supposed to be doing."
Yeah.
So I went to social work, and I thought, "I can do my hobbies on the side," and I continued to do all my crafts on the side.
Yeah.
Um, and it really wasn't until I got sick that I realized that that's a problem. Like,
Yeah.
it you know,
It probably
putting
was a
yourself
bigger problem than you thought.
exactly,
Yeah.
like, all those years of putting what I really wanted to do on the
Yeah.
back burner, and as you know, like, when you have little kids,
Yeah.
and at that point, my husband was, injured in Afghanistan in 2003, like, I did not have time for anything creative, like,
Yeah.
if I made dinner, that would be as creative as I
Yeah.
got.
Yeah.
Um, so, yeah, it was, it really shone a light on the fact that, no, if I'm going to live the life I want, I'm gonna figure out how to do it. So it took me till I was 40
Yeah.
to figure out how to do that, and like you said, I'm very lucky that I was able to and, um, had the supports. I had the supports.
Yeah. And it was
I
a,
wouldn't have been able to do it alone.
maybe it was a case of it, everything happens on time.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, that's always
Mhm.
the thing. I mean, I've noticed a lot of ads on TV lately. I think Etsy's doing a whole ad campaign that's like, the thrust of it is kind of like, oh, they told us we couldn't. They told us artists don't make any money. That doesn't pay the bills. And, but what are people who are dreamers supposed to do? And,
Mhm.
the sort of follow through question, why do some people get to do it and other people
I
don't?
know.
It's just not fair. But I think people who have this strong creative feeling, from the time you're young, if you have any intelligence and sense of responsibility, if you're just a full blast crazy artist, right, maybe it's easier because you're like, I'm going to put my foot down on the gas.
Yeah,
It will end up on Skid Row if that's where it goes. But people who have any sort of modicum of like intelligence and fear, like healthy fear,
yeah,
you think things through 100 times and you think, can I pay the bills? Like,
yeah.
is this,
Yeah, is this
you,
really a good idea?
yeah, I mean, you have to also be sensible, right? You have to
Yeah,
survive. You can't just boob it up for all of your life and have other people pick up the
yeah.
pieces around you. So it's such a familiar conversation, I think, to everybody who does art. And
Mhm.
it's so hard to figure it out, right? And there's no roadmap. It's not like
No.
you join a group and they tell you, well, just sit tight, pay off your student debt or whatever, and then when you hit 40, like you get in your 40s, like your recipe, start rethinking it and whatever. It's so different every time, and I think for us, because we're both new to the craft, COVID was a big thing,
Mhm.
and I know I felt like almost like a war profiteer because as
I
soon as
know.
right as soon as COVID happened, I had just started doing my videos and I was
Mm,
getting crazy numbers, and I thought, oh my god, I'm so happy, but I also there was
yeah.
this darkness about it too, because I was like, oh, the only reason I'm
Mm,
succeeding is because there is a pandemic and there's tons of people dying and everyone's scared and inside. It wasn't, I didn't feel like celebrating, right? It was a
yeah,
bit of like a mixed
yeah,
feeling about the way that it transpired. And
yeah.
at the end of the day, it's like, well, so many people ended up saying, well, you were there for people who needed someone to be there. So, and then it
Mhm.
was like, okay, it took years to like place that and have that sit in a way that was like, I can live with that, right?
Yeah,
But there's so many ways that you can come to your destiny. And if it's art, it's tricky. It's really hard to figure it out. I know a lot of people are probably, I'm reading the comments as we go, so I look
mm,
distracted, but I know a lot of people do this as hobbies, but I know a lot of people who watch also have businesses, small businesses, bigger businesses, all kinds of different people in the thread. Pam says, to you, Robin, hearing your story is like reliving my life all over
mm,
again. It was hard then, and that was 50 plus years ago. It's hard to hear it and to relive those emotions. I didn't get any support until I met Tommy. Tommy is her husband now.
mhm.
And Pam is a great artist, and Tommy was not well, and Tommy is doing very well now. So we've
Oh,
come
good.
like full circle with things being very good right now. As far as I know, everything is really good. Sometimes it takes the right person, sometimes it's an opportunity. I remember hearing the what is it? Lerner and Lowe wrote musicals like My Fair Lady,
Yeah,
like a bunch of famous musicals in the '60s, kind of that era. And I remember listening to an interview with him, and and they said to him like, "How did you make it work? Like your career as like a musical theater composer?" And he said, well, I forget how he said it, but it was so good. It was like, well, it all came down to like a broken nose, a wrong turn at the bathroom, and some other random thing.
yeah,
And he told the story of how he couldn't. He was supposed to be in the army, but he wasn't because he had this injury, so he couldn't. They wouldn't take him. And then he sat down at the wrong table at a restaurant, and he ended up sitting with someone who he was. It was the wrong person, but he got into a conversation. And then there was another time when he made a wrong turn at the bathroom, and he met the person who he ended up partnering with for the rest of his musical career. And it was such a great story because it just reminds you that really life is about all of these. The path is not clear, and
yeah,
it's all of these little steps, and it's almost like a choose your own adventure. What will you do at each little step? That
yeah,
dictates the ending. You
yeah.
know,
Oh, for sure,
it's
for
so
sure. Yeah,
it's so it's so scary. And it can go in so many different directions. Even good people,
Yep.
smart people, talented people, sometimes it doesn't go the right way. We've been
Yep.
very lucky.
Yep.
Susan says, and Susan Sutherland said, shouted out hello earlier. She said, I figured stuff out at 60, what I
Mm,
wanted to do creatively. So happy that at 40, Robin, that you are able to follow your creative dream. You and Deanna are very inspiring to me, and I watch and support you both. Thank you, Susan. Sending so
mm,
much love. That was a nice comment, huh? And
yep.
Barbara says, Deanna, your videos during COVID gave me balance with my work that went online. I was so grateful to connect. Well, great. I mean, I'm so
Yep.
glad it all has worked out the way. And Robin, what would you say to this semi-inflammatory remark? Right, because there is a great divide between the older school of teachers and rug makers, and there's a new generation of people. And I think you're in your late 40s. I'm in my early 50s, but I think we're still both in the new generation of hookers. It
Hmm.
seems to me like the people who are in right now starting a career, we seem to share a philosophy. And I'm thinking of Haley at Loop by Loop. I'm thinking of my friend Naomi
Yes.
at Ravensgate. Like, we seem
Yep.
to share a philosophy of sharing and
Yes.
inclusion. And I think this is going to be a big thing for the craft, because I feel like um, drawing people in,
Hmm.
with the promise of letting them work in their style according to their rules, I think is going to be the next big break for this craft.
Yeah.
You think?
I think so too. I think, and again, I don't want to sort of separate it necessarily by age because I
No,
think there are people
no,
of all
true.
ages that are very generous
Yep.
in sharing their information. And I continue to learn all kinds of things from all different people
Yeah.
of different ages. Um, but it's that there's a mentality, I think, of, well, certainly the ones I gravitate towards, like yourself,
Yeah.
that are just
Mm-hmm.
like the more the merrier.
Yes,
Like, how
absolutely.
can I help you thrive doing whatever it is you want to do? Like, that's the approach we take with our students.
Yeah.
Um, and that certainly was my first teacher, Karen Miller. Like, she gave us a blank piece of linen or burlap, I don't remember, and said, "Here's a photo if you want to use the photo," and sort of gave us tips. But there was basically a blank thing, and I love that. And
Mm-hmm.
I think had I been starting in the 80s where somebody said, here's a bouquet of flowers and you
Yeah.
have a three cut and you have to use seven values and you have to follow this very
Mm-hmm.
specific chart, I would have been.
Yeah. It was a different craft.
Mhm.
Um, but appreciate the sentiment that you just made, because I know you just did a Chetty Camp project with Betty
Yes.
Cormier.
Yes, Betty
Like,
and Cormier.
yep.
Yes.
And I mean, that is like a juxtaposition. So tell us a little bit about that, right? Because talk about
Yes.
old school. That's like 19th
Yes.
century old school.
Yes. Well, that is to me part of the learning. Like, I
Hmm.
just love to learn. There's something I get from trying something new. Like, it's kind of like my drug of choice is like,
Yeah.
give me something I've never done that is safe. I'm not
Hmm.
terribly adventurous. That sounds like, oh, I'm not jumping off cliffs. But give me a new technique and I'm happy to learn it now. Like that, I don't think I would have been as happy again beginning. I feel I have enough confidence now that I can fail without worry. And I did finish my little 4-inch mat. It's upstairs, but I don't know how many more of those I will be doing. It's
The
a
feather
very
in your
interesting.
hat. And did you do it
And
with the
again, it's just
stockings?
that no, Shetty Camp style uses a very fine two-ply yarn
Okay.
and a very small hook.
Oh, of course. I'm thinking of
Yeah.
Grenfell. Yeah.
Yes, Grenfell is the pantyhose. So, yeah, like, her husband makes these little hooks. I don't know if you can see them.
Ooh, let's see the body of it. Oh,
So, yeah,
is it a flat hook?
it is made from a nail. Literally, her husband, shaves the tip of the nail.
Stop it.
Um, no,
Actually a
I know.
nail.
And that is how they would have been made in Shetty Camp for, 80 years, the last 80 years. I think it was
Can you twist it to
1927.
the side a little bit? I want to see the tip of it too.
Um,
Oh, it is flat. The top of it is flat. Only part of
yeah,
it.
yeah,
Ooh, I wonder if she sells those hooks. I'd love to try
she
with
does.
that.
She's gonna be at Tigger, just FYI.
Oh, okay, great.
So, yeah, it's tiny. Like, if you think of a regular sort of size hook, like, this is how tiny they are.
Ooh.
And they go into every hole of their burlap, and they use burlap,
Okay. Because it's such a
um,
fine gauge yarn.
and it's a fine gauge yarn that they have to go in every hole, and they want their gauge is like 12 holes per inch, so they're 144 stitches per inch. They don't miss a hole. Um,
And that's why
anyway,
it's
it was
so, the directional hooking is so strong
yes,
of a look on
it
that.
is. It is,
It,
exactly.
is it like a typewriter? Do you just go across and then you change color and zzz, and then you
Not
return?
necessarily. No, you
Okay.
you can go in different shapes. The background, they tend to do very specific, shapes, like a repetitive square and stuff like that in the background. Um, but Betty Ann, for example, is just one of those people that when I met her, in Nova Scotia last year, she just had such a wealth of knowledge and history around this. She is a fifth generation rug hooking, person from Shettycamp. She still lives in this little
She's
village, Nova
royalty.
Scotia. Yeah. And she's just wanting to share and wanting to teach people just so people know, not because she's like everybody should do it this way.
Yeah.
Just this is what we've been doing for, 80 plus years, and we just want other people to know, and to try it and see if you like it and use it or don't use it. That's okay.
So interesting
Um,
because I've seen a lot. I mean, even here in New England, I've seen a lot of those little Chetty Camp mats, sometimes at
yep,
antique stores, and they're always tiny. And I know they're like souvenir items, and it is like dot dot. It's like perfect, perfect little line. And I always think it reminds me of like Chetty Camp is to, here's a weird ratio. Chetty Camp is to traditional rug cooking is the same as, for example, what like petty point needlepoint is to needlepoint. It's just
yep,
so much smaller,
yep,
teenier. But now that you're saying they're filling every hole,
mhm,
it's not the medium or style for blasting it out like Dion Fitzpatrick style. It's
new.
it's like a contradiction. It's like a yeah, the colliding of
Yeah,
worlds. But it
yeah,
is important to have it because it's a specific thing. There's rules
exactly.
associated with it. It's a
Mhm,
strong part of our rug making history. It's
exactly.
important that it continues and that it exists and that we can
Yeah,
recognize it and that there's a
yeah.
name for it.
Yes, yes,
So,
and so one of the things I love, as a business person is, like, when I met her, I was like, "Do you teach online?" Because I have people, like, I knew
yeah,
my creativity club would wanna hear about this, and again, I'm fortunate and, some of us who get to travel and we get to go to different schools and meet people,
yeah.
but there's so many people that that's just not an option for a whole bunch of reasons. And the internet has provided us this platform. And so for me, I feel like it's part of my mission is to bring as much as I can to it
Yeah.
sounds ridiculous when I say that out loud, but
No.
to
No.
people who won't be able to go in person. And so Betty Ann was like, I don't teach online. I've never, rug cooking online. I don't know. And so I said, well, if you do it with me, can we do it? And so there will be another class coming up.
I
Um,
was going to ask you because I saw that one was sold out.
It was sold out, and we are gonna be doing another one. I don't have the dates in front of me, but I
Okay.
believe it's the beginning of June.
Okay. So Pamela, because Pamela says I'd love to try that.
Yes.
Um, so
Yes.
so there
Yeah, so
should be
what
one
we do,
upcoming. Yeah.
there will be one. I will probably post it, in the next month.
Yeah.
I I know it is the dates are beginning of June. It will be 2 sessions.
Hmm.
Betty Ann teaches it. I just sort of do all the setup, and we mail out kits, so you get the materials directly from Shettycamp, Nova Scotia,
Oh
the
wow.
homemade hooks from her
Oh
husband.
my God.
And yeah, like, it's just
Oh, I'm
it's
going
so
to
much
sign up
fun.
for it too. I'm going to sign if
So
that's
yeah.
okay. I want to
Yeah,
make
of
sure
course.
everybody else gets in there, but I would love to sign up for it. I would
Yeah,
love to get that
yeah,
equipment from Betty
yeah,
Ann and all the
yeah.
little bits and pieces. It's just such,
Mhm.
I was going to say it's such a moment in time, but that sounds so patronizing because it's really not. It's like a continued moment in
It
time.
is a continued moment, yeah.
It is. It's like any pocket or genre within for people who love movies, right? If you say like, "Oh, I
Exactly.
love movies," and you're talking to someone who's like, "Oh my God, I love film noir. Do you want to talk about that for 2 hours?" That's what we do as rug hookers
Yes.
too, right? We're like, "Have you seen this hook? Like, what kind
Yes.
of a tip? What does that do best?"
I
It's
know.
it's just that we're speaking a different language and it's a
Yeah.
bit more nichey, that it seems weird to say things out loud, but this is exactly what we're here for, is to talk about crazy things that are not interesting to other people because
Oh,
they're
good.
so interesting to us. You just hold up a hook and it's like, oh my God, is that flat? But I think there's going to be a lot of interest for Betty Ann's
Yeah.
next
Well, if
events.
make sure you're on my newsletter, that's the best way, and then soon as I post it, I will sort of send you an update saying, "This is available, sign up if you want."
Okay.
Um, because
So
I do keep my class sizes. That's one of my things is even though I'm on Zoom, they're most of them are not pre-recorded.
yeah,
So I want to be able to talk to people. And if people have questions for Betty Ann, it's always great to have it in the moment whenever possible.
yeah.
Um, so yeah, they're limited in numbers. But she's a wonderful teacher and so much fun.
All right. I have a feeling it's going to be like the running of the bulls when that goes out. And like, do people ever have a thing with email? I always check my spam and stuff because I always wonder with newsletters that
Yes.
I love if it's going into the wrong place, and that if I
Yes.
missed something great, which has happened so much.
Well, and there's a lot going on. I must say, we had this chat actually in the club about missing out, like the FOMO, you know. You
Yep.
hear like somebody's taking a workshop and you're like, "What? I didn't know about that. Like, when is it? How is it happening?"
I
Um,
have that. That's like the story of my life. I feel I try so hard to not be in scarcity mode, but I am
no.
with everything. Everything. It's like, oh God,
Mhm.
there's a Smiths covers band, like cover band, like playing tomorrow. Oh great, they're sold out. Like they are sold out. It's like, it keeps happening.
Yeah.
It's such a small craft, but it's really hard, even with all of our great social media, to stay centralized and figure out what everybody's doing.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Just to stay on top of it is so hard to keep up with. Um, but yeah, so I try and put it on Facebook and all that, but definitely my newsletter is
So
the best stuff.
we're underlining that in a huge way.
Okay.
Make
Thank
sure
you.
that you're subscribed, right? Because
Yeah.
you won't know. It'll
Not
be a
really.
fluke if you find out that something great is happening,
Yeah.
like this Chetty Camp thing.
Yeah.
Make sure that you're subscribed so you have the best chance of not running with the
Yeah.
bulls and getting in there,
Yes.
right? Like at a reasonable
Yeah.
time.
And I always tell people, like, if you want to do it, sign up for it
Hmm.
because I don't know, like, not that I won't do it again. I don't know
Yeah,
Betty's
you can't
schedule. Like, you
guarantee.
just never know.
Yep.
So don't wait. Like,
Yes. Seize the day. Seize it.
yes.
Yeah. And Barbara said something funny. Barbara said experimenting with Chetty Camp style seems akin to growing heirloom tomatoes, keeping it
That's
alive.
exactly right.
It's a good one, isn't it? That is so funny. And Michelle signed up for your newsletter. I think you're going to have a lot of signups, which will be great.
Yes. Thank you.
Because then
Thank
we
you.
can stay on top of what you're doing. So, like, moving away from that conversation on Chetty Camp, where everything is done in this specific weight yarn and in a very sort of mathematical way, you like experimenting with different kinds of fibers, right? That's more you.
Yes. Yes.
So,
Well,
yep.
I was a knitter before. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I all my life, I was a knitter, and then I became well, I was sewer, and then I did machine embroidery. I had that little business for a while. And, so I collected like, this is not just from rug cooking. Um, and so I just feel like whatever color or texture is working for me, I don't care what the material is.
Yeah.
And again, going back to my first teacher, she mainly used yarn. She did not use wool fabric. So I didn't even know about wool fabric per se, until I went to a guild meeting and I was like, what is this thing everybody is using? And then I saw the price of it and I was like, oh, okay, I'll keep using my yarn.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Exactly.
um, so yeah, I have quite a few stashes. I'm a collector. I love fiber and always have. And I do love wool fabric. I do use that now and I do dye with it. And but it's a luxury to me. Like that's sort of
Yeah.
when I'm feeling fancy.
Fancy Nancy times.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
It's such a big movement now. I think particularly in Canada, using a lot of different fibers, and
Yes.
in the U.S. it's becoming more and more visible. But I think in Canada and in the UK first, it was mostly still working I shouldn't say still. I mean, why not work in burlap? Working in burlap with lots of different fibers, and
Mhm.
that just being a bit more connected to the origins of the craft, that thrift state of mind,
Yes.
right? And we got so far away from that in the 20th century, particularly here in the U.S. But Canada seemed as culturally just obviously lots of exceptions, but to really stick with that idea of like different fibers, different textures, different effects.
Yeah.
Um, in a way, I thought for a while, I guess that's more artsy. But now I think I don't know. I don't know that it's an artsy versus not. It's just I think sometimes it's an economy to be able to use different
Mhm.
yarns and not be buying all the milled wool in huge quantities. And sometimes I think it's just the way that people see their finished work. You know what I mean? Some people
Yeah.
are very literal. And I think, like, if you say, like, oh, let's do an underwater scene, there's going to be X amount of people who are like, well, I have to have some, like, really shiny material that looks like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's so
I
different
love
from,
shiny stuff too.
me too. But other people would not want to hook with shiny stuff at
Yeah.
all because it would break the fourth wall kind of thing, and it would
Mm.
be like it wouldn't look like a technically perfect rug if there were these rogue materials present.
Yeah.
So it's such a choice thing. But I mean, I feel like as a craft, we are quickly moving toward, like, to a climax of this conversation where we all need to be, I think, at peace with the fact that other people choose different things, not because they're
Yes.
ding dongs, not because they're broke, just because
Yeah.
they prefer it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? You shouldn't have to answer for yourself if you only like to hook with wool
Yeah.
versus just, red heart yarn or lion
Yeah.
brand yarn.
Yeah.
Um, yeah,
Well,
it's
and I think if I'm being a little bold here, I would say that our culture, like we are moving to a place where we're saying like, oh, you want to live doing XYZ
hmm
and using, these pronouns or these,
yeah,
this lifestyle choices. We're like the time of everybody needing to do a certain way is,
hmm
I think, personally, I'm happy to see the movement away from that. And it's not to say that people that want to keep using only very specific materials can't do that. That's
yeah,
their choice too. But it's really to celebrate, oh, you want to use that? Great. You want to use that? Great. Like it doesn't matter. And it's not a judgment of why are you doing that or who are you to do that?
yeah,
It's just that works for you, then go for it.
yeah.
Um,
I think
yeah.
you're right. I hope that we are moving in that direction, where everybody where we celebrate
Yeah.
the fact that you make a choice, right? Not
Yes.
just that you are processed and you go through like you
Yes.
classes or certifications or whatever, and you are processed and then you know the right way versus the wrong way. Getting
Exactly.
For me, getting away from that mentality is the most important thing right now, so that
Yes.
everybody can then actually choose and either say, I love to work very technically and I'm super proud. I'm certified in this and I'm certified in
Yep.
this and I'm super proud and I'm here to teach and these are the things I'm good at. And I think people should be equally proud to say, like, I'm super proud that I'm self trained. I
Yeah.
figured out how to do it. It wasn't
Yeah.
easy. It took a lot of fooling around, but I figured it out in the end. And it's a different approach. Um,
Yeah.
Tell me what you think of this philosophy, because I always say to people, don't choose a teacher because they're certified. Choose a teacher because you love their work and you want to work just like they work, right? Like, it doesn't that, I
Yes.
mean, to me, that makes sense.
Yes.
Choose someone who's work, have some of that ginger ale.
Yeah,
Choose
I know.
choose someone who you love, right? And they're doing all this magic stuff and you're like, "What? How did they do that?" That's the person you want to take a class with, right? Because I mean,
Yes.
technically, I know I'm not great. I'm like not I'm not even that good, right? But I'm good at some things and not at other things, and I do them all because it's part of the job. But I know what I'm not great at, and I'm not going to teach stuff that I'm not great at because I would be no benefit to people if I'm showing them how to do stuff,
Yeah.
media
Yeah,
in a
no,
mediocre way.
I totally agree, and because I love learning, I was, like, very interested in all these certifications when I, again, I was learning about what's out there,
hmm
how does this work? How does this industry, this community, how do they connect with one
Yeah,
another? Um, but at the same time, I think I'm very picky on how I spend my time,
yeah,
and I don't have endless hours, and I
yeah.
do have to make a living, and I do have family and responsibilities and stuff like that. So, um, I am very particular, and I did decide to do the Amy Oxford training.
hmm
So I am certified as a. Uh, I had to think, what am I certified as?
I
Sometimes
teach
I'm just
punch
certified.
needle.
But yes, I am Oxford Punch Needle instructor. And then I decided I was going to do the advanced ones because I would love to teach other people to be teachers. So I'm
Yeah,
still in the process of that one.
yep.
I have homework to do before I get my certification, but I hopefully will get this year. Um,
Oh, I'm sure you
but I
will.
decided I haven't made space anyway to do other certifications just yet because I didn't feel connected to the groups doing them.
Exactly.
Um,
Yeah.
and I just thought, I don't need that to teach what I'm teaching.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say I'm certified in things that I'm not.
Yeah.
And I always tell people, like, I am not a pro at certain things.
Yeah.
I'm not a fine shader. That's not my cup of
Me
tea. I
neither.
don't use a three cut if I don't have to.
Hmm.
Um, I am learning to dye, and I will show people like how I dye wool, but I'm not an expert dyer.
Yeah.
Um, but I have lots I can teach.
Yeah.
And I think that is the beauty of what we do. We're not doing brain surgery. Like, I want my brain surgeon to know exactly what she's doing and do it properly.
Yeah. Yeah.
But my rug hooking teacher, if I can learn new tips and tricks and have a great time, then sign me up.
Yeah, and it's like luckily there's so many people who are good at so many different things because you wouldn't want your brain surgeon to like do stuff to your teeth, right? Like you would
No.
want it would be a different person. Like it can't be the same person for everyone, right? You have to like the way that you love to learn and take classes and move probably almost like season to season, like different seasons of your life when you get so into something and you can't
Mhm.
get enough of it and then that season ends and you kind of find yourself in this other area and you're like whoa look and you look around and it's like whoa more new stuff. You know there
Mm.
is so much to learn and there are so
Yeah.
many people in this business who are out there and we're all good at different things which is exciting.
Mhm.
But I think we are moving to a place within the craft where we are all respecting each other
Yeah.
a lot more than in the past and saying like if you would like to do this who would be great for that. I know exactly who does that.
Yes.
And that this person is great. You're going to love this person because
Yeah.
they do exactly what you're describing. But it's great to have this network and to have people who are willing to have these conversations, right?
Well,
Instead of
and
going, well,
sometimes we don't know what we
mm-hmm,
don't know, you know? So, like,
mm-hmm,
in the creativity club, why I bring in different teachers, and sometimes you think, "Oh, I'm not interested in, like, fine shading." I'm just picking on fine shading tonight, but, um, I didn't think I would love to do it,
yeah,
but when I was at a school, I met this amazing woman, and she taught fine shading, and I was like, "Would you come and teach us?" And we had a great time. I learned about it, like, intellectually, I learned about
mm-hmm,
how the values go.
yeah,
Do I do it now?
mm-hmm,
No. But I have a that understanding is still
yeah,
there, and that is still, value added to my other pieces, even if
another
I can't
feather in the hat.
identify it.
Yeah,
Exactly, it's
yeah,
all tools in the toolbox.
it is.
Um,
Ooh, uh-oh, what happened? Hang on, everyone. Let me see what she said. I wonder if she pressed a button there. Hang on, everybody. This is a good opportunity. Sorry about that. This is a good opportunity for me to catch up with the thread a little bit. Let me just open and see if she logged off. Let me just say to her, hold on one second. Oops. Let's see. God, I was having so much fun. I hope she comes back. You can log on with the same link. Hold on one second. Let me see if I can grab her. Um, I want to. I'm reading all your comments in the links in the sidebar, by the way, and I want to respond to all. I just want to. I want to be present with the conversation, but I'm really enjoying the comments as well. Let me come back to here, and oh boy, um, hold on. Sorry. Oh no. Um, okay. Let's see. Um, Hold on, everybody. I haven't had this before, so I'm going to try to. Whew, let me see. Um, Figure this out. She's there, but she's not here. All right, hang on. I'm sorry, everybody. Can you see me? I can see you. No. No. Okay, you know what? Let me see. I think I might have to end the stream to come back in. Um, You know what? Okay, so sorry, I'm just thinking through this as we go. I'm trying to think of the most sensible way to fix this. Sources, collab cam, hold on. Add source. There she is. Okay, wait a minute. Wait a minute. Oh, I just saw you. I just saw you. Technology is fun, Laura, isn't it? All right, hang on. I just saw Robin. Hang on. Okay, wait a minute, wait a minute. I feel like. Oh, come on, hang on. Let me try one more time. collab cam, add source. Hold on. Barbara's chatting. Okay. Gosh. Okay, hold on. Um, Holy mackerel. It's frustrating because I can see Robin on my screen and I can't bring her back. I mean, that sounds awful, doesn't it? It sounds like we're having a seance right here. Um, God forbid. Hang on. Let's see. Oh, boy. Oh, wait a minute. Let me try one more thing. Ho, wait a minute. I think I might be onto something. Did it work? Did it work? Okay, we'll
Can you
have to
see
wait and
me?
see. I feel like it might have worked. Hang on. What I know, right? I've just got to move you around. Hang on one second. Let me move you back. Let me move you here. Yes. Thank you, Michelle. Robin, it worked. I
I
can't.
didn't touch anything. I swear I
It,
didn't touch
I
anything.
believe you. I believe it. Oh, wait a minute. That was me. That was me that time. Technology is the worst. Okay, we're back. Ooh, that was scary.
Like, oh, thank you,
Oh
thank you.
my
Oh,
gosh. That was incredible. Okay, welcome back. Oh my gosh, Robin, that was so scary. That we were so good. We were in our groove right there. All right,
okay.
we did it.
Oh,
Let's catch up. There was a bunch of comments that came in that I thought were worth talking about. We're getting some clapping going on.
I
I
know.
wanted
Whew.
to scroll back because I missed a bunch of comments, and they were all fabulous. But Olivia said further back, Olivia is in Ireland, and she said there are no guilds or rug cooking
Mm,
groups in Ireland. For such a creative country, I rely on online resources. And you know that isn't you hear that a lot, don't you? In
I do.
Ireland, in
I
the
do.
UK, Australia.
Yes.
If there's not a quick or easy fix for this,
Yep.
but it is good to know that there are people there who are trying to find each other, and this
Yeah.
is maybe the next big project is to get people in different areas where it's not as well known as a hobby to
Yeah.
at least be able to find each other, because what you were describing at the beginning, when you go to someone and they talk and they say a few things and you go, oh, oh, okay, I was trying to figure that out, you already figured that out. We all need to do that, particularly when we're
Exactly.
starting out. Olivia, let us know how it goes. I've been brainstorming how to get how it can be more visible as a craft in other places and how people can just find each other. Online is a good start, but it is great having an in-person group as well.
Yes.
Um, Laura Wellman said, "I learned to hook with Robin, and I hook with so many random things, including vintage fabrics, or cutting up clothing. That's the
Yes.
best, isn't it?
Yes.
Finding treasures and
I just have to give a shout out to Lara because the funny thing is we live next to each other. I did not know that. And again, I would not be on Facebook if it wasn't for Lara because again, I'm one of those, I was a late bloomer. I was in social work, so I did not want my clients finding me. I felt like that whole privacy thing back
yeah,
in, my working days was just like, ew. So I actually took a workshop, a free workshop at my library to learn about Facebook. And it was Lara teaching it. She was a social media sort of expert at the time. And anyway, we discovered we lived like not far at all. And then through other Facebook discoveries, we discovered that we grew up in the same part of Quebec, which is like 4 hours away from where we live now. Um, we went to the same high school.
crazy.
Anyway, so we were just like destined to connect. The universe kept trying, and it took us a long time to finally realize like we need to be friends. And it is partly, well, not partly, it is a huge thanks to Lara that I started teaching online because again, I was like, oh no, when COVID hit, I was like, oh, I guess I can't teach anymore
Yeah.
until, shops open up. And she was like, teach me to hook. And so she was my first online person. And she knew what hooking was because she'd seen me do it, but she had never done it. Anyway, she is now an amazing, amazingly gifted rug hooker. and inspires me and uses materials that I have said no to, which I can't believe I said no to them, but she makes everything work. Um,
Ooh.
and so when you said about like making business work,
Hmm.
I was like, I can't make a business out of this. And of course, Laura said, yes, you can. And she's helped me all the way through. Like, she's a business coach now, that is her job. But she has totally been one of those people that when I've run into a roadblock or feel like, okay, I don't know how to do this, she'll be like, let's talk it out. Who can we ask? Just like you would with a rug hooking project
Yeah.
that's stuck. You're
Yeah.
like, who can help me with this? She's that person for me. And now she's
Oh.
helping other textile artists start businesses or run their businesses.
Oh,
And we've
Laura, that's amazing.
yeah, we've put together a course to do that because there's so many that are just, like we kind of make things
Hmm.
up as we go,
Yeah.
which is fine.
Yeah.
But if you can have a network, just like a guild or an online support, you know, so we just did our first course of that, and it was so wonderful.
Yeah.
Um, so I'm really
Oh,
excited.
that's such a great shout
Yeah.
out, and that's so interesting because, like,
Hmm.
to your point at the beginning, when you're starting and you don't know what is a good decision,
Hmm.
what it's like a minefield, right?
Yeah.
It's like you hope that someone like Laura will come and that's one of the that's one of the variables. That's one of the
Yeah.
moving parts that
Absolutely.
you can't account for. You can't plan on it. And you
Mhm.
hope that there is someone like that who steps in at the right
Yeah.
time,
Yeah.
who comes into your orbit and gets you, moves you to
Mhm.
where you need to be. Because without that, then the story ends right there.
Well, and my philosophy now, again, I wouldn't have said this 10 years ago, but now is, and I hope to teach my kids this, or, when they're friends and they talk about their struggles of finding jobs or, career
Yeah.
plans, is always look for that person. Like, you
Yes.
don't have to sit back and sort of wait for this helper to come and help you.
Yeah.
Is you go out there and you start asking for help or
Mm-hmm.
asking questions, because most people are willing to help if they know that you want it, and if they have that expertise.
Yeah.
Or there are people now with all kinds of amazing, amazing creative jobs that can be a help. And so, yeah, I just feel like don't just sit back and wait. Go looking for them. There are Lars in all kinds of fields. um,
I think that
to
that is
really,
such a smart that's such a smart angle, because I think a lot of us, with whenever you hit something that you're like out of your comfort zone, or you're not in a good mind frame to deal with something, it's like you start to reinvent the wheel again, and
mhm,
everything is so overwhelming. But you're
yeah,
right, if you just lean on other people and let them do what they're best at, and be
yeah,
that for other people when they need it
yes,
too, right? You be it when it's your job, and you look for it when you need something different. If everybody just lets everybody else do what they're good at, right,
yeah.
we would all have such healthy symbiotic relationships.
Yeah.
Nobody would have to reinvent the wheel, every
Yeah,
time
and I
life
mean,
fell
none of us
apart.
really are. Like, we might feel like we have
Yeah.
to, but really there are different things and solutions out there already. We just need that support in the moment when we're struggling with it. And so it's being okay with saying, I'm struggling with this. Is there anybody out there to help me or point me? And sometimes it's just like a little word, like it's just, or a little
Yeah.
10-minute conversation, and then you're on a different path. But if you're not open to those conversations and you don't go looking, it's hard to be on the receiving end.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm just always sort of be proactive.
Yeah. And it's sometimes it seems like abstract thought, but it's not the right time to get answers. Sometimes people are, I can just tell, like in the Facebook group, it's like, I'm really struggling with this. And sometimes I'm thinking, I'm getting the vibe that that person is at a place where she might put the project down and the craft down for 10 years. Like,
Mhm.
you just work yourself into these things, and it's like, I'm
Yeah.
all done now. But then
Mhm.
sometimes, with the help of a sign, or Laura, or somebody, something changes and you come back to things. But sometimes I think we are meant to put something down for 10
Oh,
years.
yeah.
It's like that's also like
That's
a
also okay.
viable option. Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't, if you love it, you shouldn't put it down. But right, if things are just like, it's just not the right time, that's also sometimes one of the endings.
Yeah.
But hopefully not here. There's a lot of people leaving comments about inclusion and how they
Mhm.
love both of our shows, both of our. both of our programs. When you disappeared, I said it was like a séance because I was like, Robin, are you still there? I can't find you. I can hear you, but I can't find you. It
And
was
I
so
could see
spooky.
you the whole time, but my screen went black.
Oh my God. Well, I figured out how to fix that. So if it ever happens again, I will know how to fix it. That it was
Good.
extremely I was like it was like a séance, like my hand was being guided on a planchette because I have no idea what I'm doing with this
Thank
board.
goodness.
But you were talking about the Creativity Club. So
Yes.
finish talking, tell people about that and how they can join and what it is
Yes.
and what you do.
So, well, it literally started because Laura and I were sitting in my backyard, 2 feet or 2 meters or 6 feet apart, when it was still that stage of COVID, and saying like, Laura, I'm going to tell her secrets, but she doesn't like to take a lot of classes.
Mm-hmm.
She likes to do things her own way. That's
Mm-hmm.
just her creative time is she comes up with ideas, amazing ideas, and she just brings them to life. But that doesn't mean she doesn't want to hang out with other people who are doing rug hooking. So, but she's like, I don't want to keep taking classes. I want to do my thing. And so she said, why couldn't we do like you do it? At that point, I had been going to Guild before COVID. So she said, let's do that on Zoom. And I was like, oh. Anyway, so we came up with this idea and I think we had 10 people sign up and we were like, once a week, we'll hang out on Zoom for an hour and a half and we'll show each other what we're doing. We'll ask questions or, ask for help or we didn't know. We basically didn't know. And it has grown. We're going to be celebrating 4 years in September. Um, I thought it would sort of fizzle out when people started going back to classes, but we just keep growing. And again, some people can't get out. Other people just like the consistency of, an hour and a half with your buddies from all
Mm-hmm.
over. And I've made friends from California to Newfoundland who I never would have, been able to have in a classroom. Like there's just no way. So yeah, we meet either on Mondays at 11 my time, Eastern time.
Mm-hmm.
And then I had to start an evening group for those that, daytime didn't work. So I have a 6:30 on Wednesday in the evenings. And I record everything. That's one of the beauties too. So if you miss it, you can rewatch it whenever you want.
Mm-hmm.
And we have guest teachers, we have exchanges, we have random challenges, um, all kinds of all kinds of fun. Die-alongs, like where I dye wool and they tell me what to do and I'll be the one doing it. Um,
That sounds like a lot of fun. We'll never
yeah.
run out of stuff to talk about,
No,
like
no.
ever.
We never do. Like even on days where, like I was sick last week, I was like, no, no, I'm going to be there because I just love it. I know every time I gather, I'm inspired, like the beautiful things people share and the friendships made.
Mm.
It's been magic. Like again, I feel silly saying that almost, but it's really been special to me. Um, yeah, I absolutely love it. So that is my creativity club. It's not open at the moment. I will be
Okay.
opening a new when I get back from Guatemala
Okay.
to new members so that we can sort of welcome you in and get to know you and show you the ropes and how to access everything. But again, if you're on my newsletter, you'll get that notification.
Yep. And it's also on your website, right? It's one of the
Yes.
tabs on your website. So
Yes.
it's easy to find it there too.
Yeah, you can read all about it right now if you want.
Yeah.
And you can email me if you want to be on the wait list, but the newsletter will notify people as well. Um, and yeah, we just have so much fun. I always laughing. My husband is always like, "Oh my gosh, you guys," because he
What
can
are they
hear me
doing?
upstairs. Yeah, we have such a
Aw.
good time. We know everybody's pets. We
Pet
um,
cameos.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
it sounds like a lot of
um,
fun.
yeah.
But so does
We
Guatemala.
I
So
know, I
that's
know.
coming up next month?
In April 13th is the first day of the tour. So I
Oh.
know you know all about it
Mm-hmm.
because you interviewed Rebecca
Mm-hmm.
recently. But I know I tried not to watch. I started to
Sorry.
watch it. I was like, no, I have to keep some things secret or surprise so
There was
that
a lot of stuff that she had for props that we didn't touch because it would be a spoiler alert. So we were trying to be careful about that a little bit.
oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been wanting to go. A friend of mine went um just like the month before COVID. And when I heard about it, like she was telling me about it before she even came back, I was like, I need to do that. So
Mm.
I started saving my money. And as soon as they started doing them, this year was the first year, I was like, please, can I do a tour? Like, can I? Um,
It's been a long
and so,
time, right? They've been,
yeah,
yeah, it's been a
yeah.
long time. Makes sense that they did two this year.
Yeah.
Um, I had a question exactly
Mm.
like that for you. It's probably a redundant question now. This was the question: where do you think would be the best place in the world to go on a rug making vacation? I guess the answer is Guatemala.
Well, Guatemala, I think, again, I haven't been. I think it will be an amazing uh,
Mm-hmm.
adventure. But it is kind of specific too. Like it's not if you want to do your thing, like if you just want a vacation to do your project that you've been dreaming about forever and you have collected materials and dyed stuff and you want to do your thing, um, that might not be the right tour because it's you're gonna like Guatemala, they use t-shirts
Yeah.
and a very specific style. And I want to do, using their templates and their I want them to teach me whatever they want to teach me.
Yeah.
But I'm going in with an open mind. I have no idea what my pattern will look like. I have nothing prepared. Um,
Yeah.
so it'll be awesome. I'm so excited.
Oh, it's going to be absolutely awesome. You love learning stuff,
I
right?
just love learning.
You do. And so, like, what do you see? What after Guatemala? What's the next thing that you'd like to learn?
um,
Maybe you don't know
well,
yet.
I do. I do. I always have a few things on the go. Like so literally my April, I go to Guatemala and I come home. I think it's a Tuesday. On Sunday of that week, I drive to Vermont for an Amy Oxford punch needle reunion, a teacher
Oh,
reunion.
how fun.
And that is like 2 days of, or 3 days of workshops with other advanced teachers. And then I come home for a couple of days. And then I go to Halifax, Nova Scotia to teach at the rug school there, which I've done last year as well.
Oh,
And
nice.
that is another wonderful. And I always learn, like, even though I'm teaching that week, I'm learning too. Um,
Yeah.
yeah. So I have lots of stuff always on the go.
It's like that cross pollination of stuff, isn't it? Just being around other. Oh, so good. God, you have a jam packed calendar coming up.
Yeah.
Holy mackerel. Um, Jessica wrote earlier, I so much appreciate the attitude of inclusion and acceptance. I will be following Robin for that conversation alone. That's just what I
Mm,
appreciate most about ribbon candy hooking too. We have a very aligned philosophy.
mhm.
And Barbara says, I'm not certified, but spent several years doing classes billed as intro to hooking. Those who took an interest, I pointed in the right direction for their needs. That's great. Just
Yeah.
so everybody gets set up in the way they want, right? And then people
Yeah.
find their way if they want to do something more specific or they love doing, for example, the
Absolutely.
technical. Then they are
Mhm.
in the right place and surrounded by the right people to be
Yeah.
able to really close in on the thing that they really want to learn next,
Yeah.
which is exactly as it should be. You don't
Yeah.
know what you don't know. Laura says you don't know what you don't know, and that's okay. I've learned so much just seeing what everyone is making. That's so true, isn't it? It's,
Mhm.
inspiration is like 99% of this craft for me. Deborah
Yeah.
says, I would also say to young people, accept unexpected opportunities that come your way. That has
Yes.
really helped move my career forward. Yep, that's a brave mentality. 'Cause sometimes it's
Mhm.
hard to take chances, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so different from person to person. And Sharon says, what is the name of the rug school in Nova Scotia?
It is the Rug Hooking Guild of Nova Scotia that is putting on the rug school.
Okay.
And there are a few spots left. So if anybody can be in Halifax, May 5th to the 10th, um, there are some openings, I think. So yeah, if you Google Rug Hooking School, sorry, Rug Hooking Guild of Nova Scotia, you will find them.
Okay, so that's a super straightforward answer.
Yep.
Sonia says hello from St. Francisville, Louisiana, and Olivia said, "Do you think?" So we can both answer this question. Do you think the solder convention is a good one to go to if you're coming from Europe, like she would be?
Oh,
So I would.
well, you want to go first?
Let's not get in trouble. I would, for me, There's different teachers. So Olivia, I would say,
Mhm.
um, without making like a crazy plug for any one group in particular, solder can be great, but solder is it's like a repertory company, right? It's the one thing that stays the same is it's in the same place, but each year there's different
Mhm.
teachers in different classes and different exhibits. So everything is a movable feast except the location. So it really depends on who's there and if you like the teachers who will be there, and if they're the
Mhm.
ones you want to see that year. That happens every year. There's also the ATHA biennial, so that's every other year. This year it's in Texas, and again, this is more of a movable feast because the location changes. It's every second year, um, and again, different teachers, different exhibits, and all of that. The third category, and Robin, we should talk about this a little bit, is Tigger. Tigger is the third group. It is an international group, and it changes not from city within the U.S., from city to city. It changes from country to
Mhm.
country. It is a triennial event every 3 years.
Mhm.
So, Robin, you're on the board with Tigger, right? Did you want to
Yeah.
talk about that a little bit? We
Yeah.
want to preface, I think, the conversation by saying the Tigger event that's coming up in the fall. It's or like everybody who's already a member is a member, and it's closed for this year. The event
Yeah.
is now like almost at our doorstep, and when we get past the event, which I'll be there, you'll be there, there's a lot of us who are already Tigger members and will be there in the fall,
Yeah.
and that will be in Niagara. I'll let you talk about this, in Niagara Falls, the Canadian side. But after that, membership to Tigger will open
Mhm.
again, and
Yeah.
3 years later there will be another big Tigger event, and that is all a surprise, and will be described what country it is and everything that's happening with that in
Yeah.
September after this Tigger. So Tigger is different than the others, but for me, I'll shut up after this and let Robin talk. But I would say for me, Tigger is the most interesting of the groups because it's an international group, because it has so many moving parts that change. I feel just the structure of the group is more inclusive, and a little more variety than I typically see at the other large rug hooking events. I'll let you take it away, Robin.
Well, when people, because people ask me, "Oh, where should I go?" Like if they've only or have never been to a rug cooking school or what have you. And I haven't been to that many. I have not been to ATHA.
Mm-hmm.
I went to Sauder for the first time last year, and it was almost a 12-hour drive for me.
Yep.
That is a very long drive.
Mm-hmm.
My husband came with me because I could not do that by myself. Um, and to be honest, it's not inexpensive.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, I went for a 1 day workshop. And anyway, we were there for 3 days, but I did a 1 day workshop. I had 1 day to sort of explore everything. And then I had a half day workshop. Um, and I've been to Nova Scotia as a student and as a teacher, and I've been to Green Mountain
Mm-hmm.
a couple of times, which is in Vermont.
Yep.
And and then I've been to day things at other places. But I think what anybody that's looking, I would say, what kind of ambiance are you looking for? Because for me, for example, I get overwhelmed in crowds.
Mm-hmm.
I get overwhelmed when there's a lot of sensory things going on, and I find it really exhausting. So I know that my capacity is lessened when that's happening. So Souter was such a feast. I really, really enjoyed the exhibit. However, like that would have been probably the highlight for me was the exhibit. But at the same time, I so wished like I could have snuck in before it opened or stayed after it closed because I knew I did not absorb it all.
Mm-hmm.
And the beauty, the work, the talent, it was
Yeah.
just extraordinary. Um, but it was very overwhelming for me.
Yeah.
um, so yeah, this year I'll be going to Tigger. If somebody loves the coziness
Mm-hmm.
of an inn or a small town event, like the Green Mountain and the Rug School in Nova Scotia, for example, even though they're both very different, I just felt like you work on one project for a couple of days, 3 to 5 days, depending. You have one teacher, one classroom. You get to know the people in your classroom. The tone is sort of more subdued. You can, like it's just quieter,
Yeah.
and that is more
Mm-hmm.
my speed for working
Yeah.
um, and absorbing.
Yeah.
So it's just different. And I know some people like thrive on the energy of Souter. For me, it was very draining.
Yeah.
Um,
These are fantastic points. I think this is a question we never address, right? Because you don't
oh,
want to you don't want to deep six any of the great
yeah.
conventions that represent our craft. But I
Hmm.
think I think I agree with Robin. Making a good personality match is the thing,
Hmm.
because there are lots of variables, and I feel exactly the same way. Even though I love art and I love hooking, hold on, I know how to do this. I know how to do this. Hold on one second. There we go. Gotcha. I gotcha.
Okay.
You're back. Even though I love all that stuff, see, I figure, I can't believe I figured that out. That's incredible. I also have a very low. I can only absorb stuff for so long, and then I'm oversaturated, and I
Yeah.
really need to get out. And like these larger events, I think really depends on what kind of a person you are. It also
Hmm.
depends on how social you are and whether a lot of your buddies are going, because I think
Yes.
a lot of these events, you know, people are seeing each other, once a year. And then I don't think people are on purpose clicky at all. But I think when you only see your friends once a year, you tend to hang out with just your
Hmm.
friends. And then if you're a new person coming to it and you're thinking, oh, I hope I can make friends, sometimes in larger situations, it's tougher to make friends because everybody's like reconnecting with the
Hmm.
friends that they haven't seen for a year. These are all things to consider, right? Because you want to
Yeah.
set yourself up for success. I think also Robin made the point about the length of classes. Whatever you're looking at to do in terms of like an outing or a rug hooking destination, look at the classes. I think whether you like them or not and how long they are. Like
Hmm.
I'm not a person who can sit for 3 days in one class, right? It doesn't matter what the class is. It could be like, Barry Manilow is teaching me piano, and I love him more than anyone, but I don't think I could sit still for 3 hours. So, it really depends on who you are
Yeah.
and what you feel like. Does that sound good to you?
Yeah.
If I can do it in 3 hours, I mean, this is just awful. It's like an attention span problem, but I would rather do 100 different things for 3 hours than one thing for 3 days. You know what I mean? And so
Which is
that's a consideration too.
which is so funny because when I had to not had to, I was invited to teach at Nova Scotia. It was 5 days. I was like, "I have never taught a 5-day class." But I brought my paints, I brought other things. Like, I knew, and so my class is not just hooking. Of course, I always tell people, like, if you just wanna hook, go for it. But if you're like me and you're curious about a bunch of different things, we're gonna be, and, like, my class in Nova Scotia this year is on bubbles, like hooking bubbles and water droplets.
Ooh,
I am
ooh.
bringing bubbles. Like, I thought, "How can I teach a class and not have?"
You have to bring bubbles.
So
Bubble machine. Bubble gun, right?
I know. So, again, I'm like you, I can't sit and do the same thing nonstop. I need variety and I need
Mm,
movement,
yeah,
um,
yeah.
and I yeah. So I
True,
invite
true.
that in my classroom even though it's a 5-day class.
It is,
Yeah.
but like I noticed also online, you love to do your beading, right? You have like these bead moments every now and then. You go and you get the beads out, and it's like you just need to mix it up a little bit, keep things
Well, that's
lively.
something I learned recently. I hadn't beaded, and then, yeah, I took a class on beading, and I was like, "Oh, I need more beads."
Yeah.
So, yeah.
No, it makes perfect sense. And I mean,
Yeah.
you can use beads on fabric, right? Sewing beads on
Mhm.
fabric, that works.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
everything. There's just so many. I paint on fabric, like, I paint on the linen sometimes before I hook it too,
yeah.
or after I've hooked or punched, or, like, there's just
Yep.
so many
The
different
thing
things.
behind me, I showed it the other day. This is Melissa
Oh,
Gautier. She paints her canvas
yes.
before she hooks it, just to give like a color, color plan. It's like old timey
Yeah,
patterns that are already pre-colored. It makes so much sense.
yeah.
Rita chimed in on the subject of like the big events like solder and says they are overwhelming for all of us.
Oh,
It is like you fortify yourself, galvanize, get your strength. But these are still really big events. It's like
mhm.
going to like the spectacular or the sort of penultimate version of any craft or anything. It's like it's the culmination, and it is, I
Yeah.
think, overwhelming for a lot of people. Pam said, I think solder would be similar to the New York Sheep and Wool Festival, or down here, like
Yeah,
SAFF. Those fiber festivals are so overwhelming. It's
yeah.
incredible. It's like, oh, I get super overwhelmed at them.
Yeah.
Kaz remembers. It's incredible. She said festival or down here SAFF. My first visit, I was overwhelmed so much so that I couldn't make a decision to buy anything. You get paralyzed by choice,
Yes.
right? That's a thing. Olivia says my husband has just listened to you both, and he says, "quote We're all bipolar."
Yes.
I accept
Yes.
that. I've actually have a diagnosis for that, but I absolutely accept that. Carol says, as a new member, liaison person at the Ottawa Guild branch,
Yes.
I consider it my job to make the new hooker feel welcome before anything else. That includes being a friendly face in the 100 members. That is so
Which she
important.
is. I have to shout out to Carol because I met Carol the first time at Karen Miller's class, which was her dining room table. And they were all talking about this guild. And I was like, no, thank you. I made it to this classroom. I'm fine. I don't need to meet 80 new people or whatever it was at the time. And she said, I'll drive you there and I'll pick you up and I'll drive you. And anyway, Carol is a sweetheart and I would not have gone. Like I know I would not have gone because that was, at a time when I was not driving myself places. And yeah, no, it would have been scary.
Carol is like Lara in your
Yes,
story, right? It's another
exactly.
like integral person to getting
Yeah.
you from here, Candyland, from here to
Yeah,
here to here, out of the swamp of misery and over the Peppermint Bridge, right? To like better places.
absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
these people, and it's if everybody could, I'm sounding like I'm on a soapbox or something, but if everybody could just be a bit thoughtful, particularly at events where there might be new people around, about being that person who is
Yes.
the smiling, friendly face, and like takes you by the hand and says,
Mhm.
without any pressure, like come sit by me or what, just to get you started. When that
Yeah.
person doesn't exist at a guild meeting, and I've
Mhm.
had many a time that scenario has
Yeah.
not
Oh,
a friendly
it's
face in
the
the crowd,
worst.
it's hard. It's
It is.
hard.
And yeah, when I went to Souder, like my husband came with me. He is
Hmm.
not a rug cooker. He's very supportive, but he's not a rug cooker and not interested too much. And I didn't know anybody else going. Like I wasn't going to meet friends there. Um, and I had that moment of like, I imagine how overwhelming this would be if you didn't know anybody. And I had done this thing on Facebook again, telling people, I'm going to Souder. I'm scared. If you see me, say hi. And that saved me. I probably had a dozen people say, hi, I saw you on Facebook, so I'm saying hi. And some sat and talked with me because I literally would go out and sit on a bench for a minute to sort of like, whew.
Hmm.
Um, but without that, yeah, like we need to be really cognizant of the new people coming in um, who don't have the buddies yet.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah.
mhm. And I
That's
say yet because you will. Like,
yeah. You will. Well, you should, unless you leave before something good
yeah,
happens. That happens a lot. Like you leave the party before because it's just too
yeah,
awkward and it's not worth it.
yeah,
Pam said Sauder might consider having a group of raw cooking concierges. That's not a bad idea. Because like we were saying at the beginning of the episode, you present yourself. Here I am. I've got on my cat sweater. I like cute cats. Does anybody want to talk to me?
mhm,
I mean, you feel like you're a kid again, and you're not being
yes,
chosen for the basketball team.
mhm,
These situations, whether it's like a guild or like a big event, it's overwhelming. You
yeah,
so want you so want to connect with other people and build. You put so much pressure on yourself too. I think
I
you
know,
so want to build something like meaningful and find your tribe, and it's so much pressure. You don't want to
it
be a
is.
failure. You don't want to go away being a failure, right? And hearing other people talk about how great it was, and you were
I know,
were sitting
not
by
getting it.
yourself, right? Because you felt so
Yeah.
awkward. Oh, Gail's logging on from Australia. Good to see you. Good morning
Oh,
over there. So we're coming to the end of our
yeah,
show. I want to ask Robin another question, but I want you all, if you have specific questions to Robin, this is the right time to put them into the thread, and I can read them out. Robin, we talked so much about art and inspiration. Um, what is your favorite style of art or artist?
oh my gosh.
It is probably a lot.
I just little tangent here to answer your question. I just watched a TikTok video. I follow and I'm learning a lot about autism and the autism spectrum, and the person said, why is it that I hate it when people ask me what my favorite anything is?"
Hmm. Hmm.
Because I feel like if I say it, like and sh this is what she said, but she says, "If I feel like I say it, I'm now, like, attached to it, and I can never change my mind."
You can always change your mind.
So I have to
Flexible.
yeah. I don't think I have one. Like,
Yeah.
I love color. Like, I just like, even, when I see something like this, like my overalls, I get what we've been learning about in Creativity Club about glimmers. So it's those little things that give you glimmers of joy or comfort or this overwhelming sense of peace, even if it's like a half a second.
Yeah.
I get that from color. So to me, the art is not about a technique or a style or even a person. I don't sometimes it is like I went to Disney World last year, and my kids anyway, for their 18th and 21st birthday, very close together, we went to Disney World. It was crazy. But some of the murals I saw, I
Yeah.
was like, "These are
Yeah.
amazing," and I have no idea who did them.
Yeah.
So yeah, I can't give you an artist or a
Okay,
thing. I
but like
just
the overalls look like the Liberty prints to me, like that, like that. It looks like it could be a Liberty print, just a really pretty, colorful, sort of watercolor feeling, little
Mhm.
cartoony touch, super,
Yeah,
super playful.
yeah,
That's a great style too. Yeah, I mean, you never have. And the thing about styles and favorites is like, yeah, they can change tomorrow, and they should, right?
yeah,
That's the thing is like if
yeah.
you collect things that you love, it's like a
Mhm.
collection in your head. It's like a museum in your head, a memory museum. You get to keep all of them as long as you can
Yeah,
remember them, and
yeah.
then you pull from them when you feel like it and when the time is right. And oh
And
God,
I feel kind of lucky that I don't have just one style. Like, I don't wanna hook just one style because I have so much more, like, possibilities
yes,
then. Like, some days I want to do more primitive, and other days I'm like, "Oh, no," like, give me abstract, and then other days it's like, "Oh, I'll do my dog," and, "Oh, I'll do something else." So, yeah, I really don't it depends on the mood, and I have about probably 10 unfinished projects just within my sight line. Um, so it depends on my mood what I wanna work on that day.
I think that makes a lot of sense because you honor what you're into at that moment.
Yeah,
And you always do your best work. If you're really focused and you have the time and the space to work on something that you feel like working on.
yeah,
Because even if you've got a great project on the back burner, if for 100 different reasons you don't feel like it that day, it's just not
mhm,
going to come out that well
yeah,
because your heart is just not in it.
mhm,
Um,
yeah.
Gail is saying the dog is gorgeous behind you. It looks like a
Oh,
husky.
yeah, he's passed actually, but he was a husky shepherd. Um,
Oh.
yeah, he was a big teddy bear.
What a sweetie. Oh, he's absolutely beautiful. You have a few questions that came in.
Oh,
A lot of thank yous. Judy said, Robin, I just peeked at your Instagram and saw your beautiful dog. Is that a hooked? Okay, this was a different comment. Is that a hooked hanging? You have a little dog too, don't you have a little chihuahua or something?
yes, my baby.
What a
We have
cutie.
3.
You've got three.
We have 3. So, yeah, Earl is gone, but we got another one. We have another husky, and we have a little tiny 3.5 pound chihuahua, and we
Hmm.
have a pug chihuahua mix lady, who is just full of love. So, yes, and I've hooked them all. Well, I haven't hooked Tilly yet, but I've hooked all the others.
Oh, that is so fun. They
Mhm.
your pictures on your site. I wasn't stalking you, but I wanted to see
It's
some of your
okay.
pictures. And your horse Red, right? Your horse's name is
Yes.
Red. Beautiful, so
Mhm.
beautiful. So Sonia asked, maybe this came in right before we said this, but Sonia said, talk a little bit more about your style, please. We are sometimes encouraged to find our style.
Mhm. Yeah, see, I have a bit of a struggle with this. Like,
Mm-hmm.
we've had discussions about this in my group too, and I think that's great. Like, if you feel excited by a certain style and you wanna do that and you just keep doing it and never tire of it, that's wonderful. But that is not me,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and it's not a lot of people I've met, and somehow I feel like we've been told, or many of us feel like, "Oh, if I like too many styles, it means I haven't found the one yet."
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a myth. I think
Yep.
that is not a helpful sort of philosophy for most of us that we're supposed to. Like, somehow we are supposed to find, like, I
Yeah.
don't know.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't think it's necessary. I feel like part of rug cooking for me is to find out what I actually do like, and I'm actually writing a book. That is my other big project right now,
Oh, is it a
and it
secret?
no, no, no
You got to
secret.
tell us.
Um, it's I've been wanting to write a book for years and not knowing even why. Like, I I always felt like I had some stuff I'd learned,
Mm-hmm.
going through as a military spouse and a husband in Afghanistan. I was like, there's some stories here that people might find helpful. And then when I had my own health struggles and depression took over and how I came out of that, I was like, I feel like there's stuff here that because when I share it, sometimes people are like, oh, that's really helpful. So my book is is very much still the beginning stages. I have written a lot, but it is still a little at the overwhelm stage. But it is about that journey of finding ourselves. Like, and I feel like that's what rug cooking has done for me because I was literally at a place where I could not decide if I wanted to put on blue pants or black pants. Like,
Mhm.
just tell me what pants to put on.
Mhm.
Um, and rug hooking allowed me to sit with a color and be like, "Do I want this color or do I want this color?" And nobody could tell me right or wrong. Nobody could tell me how long I should take to do
Mhm.
that. Or better yet, I could put in a little bit of this and a little bit of that and then decide
Mhm.
myself. And so all these like little tiny life decisions I would work out in my rug hooking. Um, and I feel like that is what we do with our style too. Like we just, you figure it out and it can change. And why should we hold ourselves down to one thing or look
Yeah.
for one thing as if it's like the end all be all? So,
Yeah,
yeah.
I think creative people really lean into their creativity for therapy in a lot of ways, and we all need therapy for different things, whether we get it or need it or want it. But even when I think about famous people who have had distinct styles in their careers, like Klimt, right? Like his gold period
Mhm.
of 10 years. Well, that was a product of like his brother and his father dying the same year, and his dad was a goldsmith, so he
Yeah.
went like all full blast gold for 10. There's a reason why it
Yeah.
happened, and when he was kind of healed, it ended. So
Yeah.
it's so hard to say. I totally agree with your sentiment that you do seem like a sloppy jack of all trades if you do a little bit of everything. But if that's who you are,
Mhm.
you're typically at peace with that. It's other people looking in that will say, well, what does she do? What
Yeah.
is her style? It's not up to those people are trying to pigeonhole you. And
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, it's everybody has to travel wherever the road is leading, right? It's like unfolding in front
Mhm.
of you, and sometimes you don't have a lot of control over the twists and turns, and sometimes if it takes you into dark places, right? Then your work changes, and if you come
Mhm.
out somewhere great and unexpected and new, work changes again.
Yeah.
But I think that is the nature of being an artist. Some people
Mhm.
do work in a distinct style in rug hooking. Those people tend to be more technical people, and you're definitely a more creative than technical person. So the most important thing, it seems to me,
Yeah.
for you would be to get the creativity out and
Yeah.
to create stuff um, that completes the conversation about where you are, what you're thinking, what you're feeling. Whereas for technical people, I think if you're very technical, the craft is more a journey of I'm doing this very well. I want to be better. I want to be better yet. I still think I can be better.
Yeah.
So it's an apples and oranges, I think, kind of a conversation
It is.
because you're very eclectic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yet it's funny because again, I had to force myself when I decided to do the Oxford certification. It is a very technical program, and I knew that, and I knew that, okay, I'm gonna challenge myself. So I see those moments as like, this is a challenge, and I'm going to be really technical for this period. And then just like if I'm doing other things, there's periods where you're like, okay, this is like free for all, and I'm just gonna,
Yeah.
throw things at it and see
Yeah.
what happens. Um, but I think that's a beautiful thing. Like, I love that. Like, I think we should celebrate that, and I think so many other people would benefit.
I
I
agree.
really feel there's a benefit to that.
I agree. The Oxford certification has always made a lot of sense to me because that certification is based on using a tool, right? So it's like
Yes.
if someone could give me a certification on how to use my cell phone, that would be amazing because I still don't know how to use it. Like, I still don't know how to retrieve my voicemail. But when you're using a specific tool and it
Yes.
has like limits, and you
Yeah.
want to know what all the limits are, that makes perfect sense to me
Yeah.
because it doesn't seem like I'm not dissing one certification and not another, but it doesn't seem to. And I know Amy, and I think she actually, I just got a letter from her today with her new book. But it seems to me like that makes absolute sense. Like, how does this is
Yeah.
lip chap, but how does this thing work? Like,
Yeah.
can it do this? Can it do that? What if it does this? Like,
Yeah.
that makes a
Well,
lot
and
of
for
sense.
me, what I loved, again, kind of like how I decided to do the Shetty Camp
Hmm.
workshop is I wanna learn how they figured it all out. Like, I wanna know, and the goal is to make the best possible long-lasting rug for the floor. Like, those rugs and the techniques that are teaching in that is specific so that you are gonna have long-lasting, beautiful rugs for many years to come. And I wanted to learn that. And then that does not mean I'm gonna do every rug like that because most of my rugs don't go on the floor. So I can pick and choose what parts are important to me in the future. But it's more of that like challenge of like, okay, can I do this?
Yeah, and
Um,
yeah, I mean, the more techniques and things you
mhm.
collect, the more choices you have,
Yeah.
right? And the like it's just more it's like language, right? The more words you know, the more
Yeah.
precise you can be. If you want if whatever you're trying to tell me, the more choices you have, the better I'm going to understand you. And your
Yeah.
work works the same way. When I look at your work, it's like I understand you because you do these subjects, you did this project. I relate to it, different pieces to different degrees, right? Because of
Mhm.
the overlap between you and me, or you
Yeah.
and anybody, or anybody and anybody.
Yeah.
There's a lot of comments coming in that are super interesting along this line, talking
Oh.
about art and painting. Pamela saying she tried so many things to find her style. Susan saying it's different for each person. Sometimes you see
Mhm.
someone's work and you know exactly who did it. Other times it might be the colors that you're attracted to, or it might be in each of your pieces. For example, Sonia, people chatting with each other.
Mm.
I'm just paraphrasing. And being eclectic, Susan says, could be a person's style, but the person's hooking hand, so to speak, will show up in some pieces. That's true. There are
Yeah.
sometimes some telltale um, techniques, or the way that someone does text, or something that
Yeah.
is really telltale like that. Barbara says, interesting. Some are searching for a style, and others try hard to avoid being identified as a single style. That is interesting, isn't it?
It is interesting, and that's human nature. Like, isn't it human nature? Like,
Yes.
we're all so different that that's a great thing, and we should celebrate that and not feel like, "Oh, I should be more this way or I should have this." It's like, I don't know.
No,
I don't feel the
that's
need
so
to.
true.
Mhm.
That's it. I never thought of it like that either, Barbara. That's a really interesting
Mhm.
idea, because for some people it is interesting to. It is important to have a signature style.
Yeah.
I mean, fine. It's more like fine artists tend to have signature styles, and you see their work, you go, "Oh my God, that's obviously so and so." Rug hookers, I think, less. And
Well, I wonder if it has to do with sort of the, um I can't think of quite the right word, but sort of the capitalist idea. Like, so artists that produce
mhm,
on large amounts to sell their art,
yep,
that is a benefit if they are recognizable. Like, their style is recognizable. And I mean, I know many, I can think of some in my area that they have gallery shows, and many of their pieces are similar. They're not the same, and but the color use or the palette kind of that they would choose, um, and that makes them sellable. Like, more
yeah,
people can recognize them and more willing to buy and pay high,
yes,
dollars for them, which is wonderful. I am never gonna be able to pay my mortgage selling my rug cooking. Like, that is not gonna happen, and that's okay. I don't wanna
yeah,
have to produce in that amount. I am slow.
yeah,
I am, I have too much going on to produce enough to do that.
yeah.
So I'm gonna be free with my style, that I don't care if people are gonna recognize my work. Maybe some people do, I don't know, I'd be curious. Um,
This is so interesting, right? This is its own subject,
yeah.
because you're absolutely right. If you think of an artist like Van Gogh, right, the
Mhm.
works that go to auction, if they are not like yellow, blue, and orange, they
Yeah.
don't do as well. If they're not typical motifs, right, typical scenes, they're not going to do as
Mhm.
well as others, because they aren't Van Gogh enough Van Goghs,
Exactly.
right? I mean, that in itself, that's
Yeah.
kind of sick, like in and of itself. But I was just watching an interview with a rug hooker whose work I really, really liked recently, and and she said in the interview something that I heartily disagreed with. Said something like, a lot of people are doing rug hooking, but not very many people are interested enough in taking it to the next level and making it into gallery art. And I took super
Mm.
exception to that conclusion, because I thought, wait a minute, um, I had work in galleries when I was still in high school, but what I my part in this craft, I think, is to teach and to have these
Mhm.
platforms and to show, and that's a choice, right? That's
Yeah.
not a failure. That's not crystallizing the sort of eventuality
Yeah.
of the craft in its final form. It's making a unique and personal decision about how, what we were saying earlier, what you do best, right? Bring
Yeah.
what you do best. Because if everybody did gallery art because that
Yeah.
was the ultimate, how boring would that be? And there'd be no teachers.
Yeah.
So we all have to find our way. We all have to find our style. We all have to find our niche.
Hmm.
But we all have to be comfortable where we land, right?
Yeah.
And you
And move around.
and move
Like maybe
around.
right now you're not doing gallery work, and maybe in 10 years, you know what? You're like, I'm going to be doing.
Absolutely. Maybe I'll
Mhm.
be, I was going to say maybe it'll be all about me, but that sounds judgmental and like I'm retaliating. But I'm not. But yeah, I could never part with my favorite pieces. That's the other thing. Like if they're hanging in a gallery, I could never part. The pieces that I work on, I remember what book cassettes I was listening to.
Me
I
too.
remember what movies I was, it's all part
Oh
of my
yeah.
life. It's like it would be like pages ripped out of my diary. I couldn't possibly sell if it was my
Hmm.
best work and good enough to go in a gallery, I couldn't possibly sell it. At least that's how I feel now. But you're right.
Exactly.
Everybody feels differently
Yep.
at different times, and
Yep.
yeah, everything shakes up and shake. We all live in a snow globe, right? Once in a
Yep.
while, someone shakes it, and everything is different.
And I just think whenever that idea of like, this is what people should be doing, that just rubs me the wrong way. Because I think it's wonderful that rug hooking is in galleries and should be in
Yeah,
galleries, but it doesn't mean that that should be everybody's ultimate dream
no,
or goal.
no. It doesn't
And
mean
it
you're the
doesn't devalue
best.
the work that is on the floor at people's houses. Like
Yeah.
that is amazing work that needs to be just as celebrated. Um,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely. That's important to say too because nobody should feel like a failure because
No.
their rugs have not been in a gallery yet or haven't been in Celebration magazine or haven't been in who cares.
Or has
Um,
never been sold.
yeah,
Like it's that is part of the whole capitalist thing where everything, only has value once it's been sold. And anyway, that's another day.
right. And then you become a commodity, like a human
That too.
commodity, right? That just produces stuff and offers it for sale and hope,
Yeah.
that's a different life in a different world. That's not
Yep.
that's not what we do. So I think we would both have a hard time understanding that whole mindset.
Yeah.
But thank God there's so many different kinds of people in the world.
Yes.
Otherwise, it would be so boring. Um,
Exactly.
all
Exactly.
right. Well, I think we're getting to
Ugh.
the end. Everybody is saying a huge thank you for being
Oh, thank
here. It
you.
was so much fun having some time with you tonight, and it's so
Oh,
good.
thank you.
It's just the beginning. I'll be seeing you soon, but it's
Yeah.
great. It's great to get to know you and to hear about all the things you do. And I'll just remind everybody, to go on the Hooking Outside the Lines website, like it's a web page.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hookingoutsidethelines.com.
Yep. And you will find a whole bunch of things in there, workshops, classes, right? There's a hold on the Creativity Club for now until you get back from Guatemala. But make sure that you sign up for the newsletter too so that
Yeah.
you know when the next things are coming up and when things are being announced. As soon as the Creativity Club opens again,
Yep.
be on top of that, right? Because it's always a numbers game, a little bit of
Yeah.
the running of the bulls. So be aware of what's coming and what the timelines are and just join Robin's stuff so that you can stay on top of it and So,
Hmm.
Robin, lots of thank yous.
Oh,
A
thank
lot of people
you.
saying they had a great time. There is still, like, I have to say that a lot of people will watch this in the evening because of the different time zones, but there's still
Hmm.
66 people watching right
Oh
now.
my
That's a
gosh.
lot because we're over our time. So
Oh my
thank
gosh.
you all for tuning in. Robin,
Yes. Thank you.
especially thank you to you for spending some time and for being so personal. That I really appreciate that. There's no point in talking if you're not really going to talk. Um,
Well, anybody, whenever I talk to people now, it's like I can talk about rug cooking and or all the things that come to that, art style, life choices, whatever comes into it. I feel like I have never run out of things to talk about if people are interested. So I appreciate this platform, Deanna, because yeah, it's very easy to talk with you, and your audience obviously is a great, amazing group of people.
it's an amazing. It's
It's been
an
fun.
amazing group.
And I
Um,
just have to say, because I always feel like I didn't. My website doesn't have a lot on it right now because I'm kind of winding down as I'm going away and I have all these things happening. So yeah, you might be like, oh, she has no workshops coming up. I have lots coming up. They're just right now I'm finishing up what I had started, and then there'll be more this summer, and next fall it'll be happening again.
yeah, we
Um,
won't judge you.
right now it might look kind of sad.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure it does. You're just doing other stuff right now. So
Yeah.
we that's a good tip, right? Because
Yeah.
when we go on, there'll be lots more stuff coming up later. It reflects where you are right now and your
Yeah.
busyness right now. Uh,
And I'm just me. Like I do all of this by myself.
yeah. Yeah.
So it's I will update my website when I have a free moment.
Yeah, and the best way to know what's next is to subscribe, right?
Yeah,
Because you'll let people know as soon as something new happens, and then they have the
yeah,
equal chance to anybody of getting
exactly.
in right before things shut down. No judging
Yeah.
here, Marcia says.
Thank
Everyone is
you.
giving a great amount of thanks. And Judy says, please, after you come back from Guatemala, share your trip. Maybe you'll come on again and share your trip.
Yeah,
It'd be completely different than Rebecca's
it
trip.
will be. Yeah, yeah, I'd love to.
Oh, that would be such a lot of fun. You are welcome anytime, anytime. And keep us updated on the progress of your book, too. It sounds like a super worthy project and a great
Yes.
personal project that I think a lot of people can relate to.
I really hope it's going to be different. I don't know what it'll look like, but I'm hoping this fall and maybe for Tigger, I will have it to share.
I'm
That's
excited.
the goal.
No pressure, but I'm excited. I won't
Yeah.
ask you about it 10 times between now and then. Don't worry.
Oh, please do. It's okay. It is like top priority for me every day. It's like, okay, how much time do I have to dedicate to this? Because it takes time.
It's one
But
of those things, though, you probably have to do it when you feel like it, right?
yeah.
And some days you don't feel like it, and you probably shouldn't on those days. But
Well,
every
it's
this.
yeah, it's a whole other beast of creativity too. Like
Mhm.
that is just challenging me and is interesting and I've never done it before. So
And it sounds like it has a bit of a memoir quality to it. So
mhm.
you want to be sure that it's right, right? Because
Yeah.
you want to make it as good as it can be because it's your story.
Yeah.
So yeah, it'll be perfect. It'll be perfect, and it'll be on time whenever
Yeah.
it happens.
When it's ready, it'll be ready.
Well, thank you so much. And
Thank you.
everybody, I will be back with you on Monday at noon Eastern Standard Time for coffee time. We'll return to, I forget what we were talking about, but it was something fun. And we'll be back there on Monday at noon. Also, the Wednesday show. And then next, I should be on with you again next Friday. And Robin, we will see you sooner rather than later, I hope. In the meantime,
Yes.
I hope everybody has a great weekend. And you can reach, where you can reach Robin at Hooking Outside the Lines, and you can always reach me at ribboncandyhooking@gmail.com. Be sending in your stuff for the next gallery night, which is scheduled for next Friday night. And be sure you're sending in your stuff for Magpie Times Midsummer Magic theme. So get all of
Oh,
your stuff going. Lots of applause, lots of thanks. I will see you all next time, and have a great night, Robin.
thank you so much, everybody.